I emerged into a vast expanse of sand and bone. A windswept dune littered with the corpses of slain warriors, arrows, axes, and swords rusted and bloodied beside them, a boundless canvas of war. And on the other side of this, a monstrous silhouette, the demigod, Star Scourge Radahn. This hulking, frenzied, rotting Goliath. I summoned a small legion of noble warriors, and weaving between supersonic bolts of death we approached. Radahn unsheathing his titanic blades, unleashing brutal, heavy swings. Each flurry of strikes dragging his colossal weight around with them. This cyclone of steel and pain eviscerating my band of allies, annihilating my health bar, any promising run just being ripped away from me. Now imbuing his swords with gravitational magic, his blades transforming into two behemoth stone clubs. Gravity waves, collapsing stars, skull-caving combos, my party of summons and I dropping like flies. Dead, dead, and dead again and again. I just could not give up. Each time coming back with a sharper edge, a better grasp of how Radahn moved, how to recognize when he was telegraphing each deadly, deadly swing. And bit by bit, I slowly whittled down his gargantuan health bar, run by run, surviving just a second longer into the onslaught, until eventually, half health. This could be the run. Wait, what? Where did he? What the? What? Meteorites, seismic shockwaves, reality-bending, dream-crushing vortexes, more shockwaves, relentless, brutal, bludgeoning, my feeble early-game axe taking only the tiniest morsel of Radahn's health pool with each swing, his monolithic, dual-wielded death swords erasing me. You died, you died, you died, you died, you died, you died. Each failed attempt a small creep towards victory, each violent defeat a small optimization, until hours had passed and I had Star Scourge Radahn down to his last smithereens of health, barely weaving between his combinations, narrowly avoiding his swings, outspacing his magic attacks, dodging into sweet spots to land few pitiful blows, my heart beating, my hands sweating, my urge to utterly obliterate my controller against my bedroom wall strengthening. Yet amidst this frantic, adrenalized hurricane of death, a joy was manifesting. I need to kill Radahn. It's all I'm thinking of right now, but why am I starting to enjoy this? Why am I... Oh my god, this might actually be the run. I did it. Radahn. I defeated Radahn. I really did it. What is this feeling, this rush? I want to go back and do it all again. This is the greatest game I've ever played. You're not watching a video about Elden Ring. You're watching a video about what Elden Ring was to me. Please enjoy.
Foul tarnished, in search of the Elden Ring.
Choose character class. I choose prisoner because funny helmet.
The fallen leaves tell a story.
Where am I? The inside of a chapel. So the Elden Ring is tucked under the carpet somewhere. Game of the year. Really? Oh. And so the game's tutorial begins. FromSoft immediately throwing you into the biting cold to fend for yourself. A barbaric gauntlet of enemies here to prime you for the relentless brutality of Elden Ring. A grafted scion crashing down from above, this wriggling bizarre chimera of limbs and hands, eviscerating you with dual swords, sending you down into a dark, quiet cave. A stranger approaches you and provides a fundamental game mechanic. Press X to heal. You then ruthlessly struggle your way through its chambers, brimming with all kinds of horrors. Vicious, rabid zombies assail you. Crossbow-wielding militia rip through you with arrows. And after hours of suffering, you come face to face with him, the soldier of God. And if you somehow manage to defeat him, you exit this cave and emerge out to Elden Ring's world. So this is Limgrave, the very first of Elden Ring's open world locations, and this world is staggeringly open. I've clocked in many hundreds of hours in this game, and at most I'd say 150-ish of those hours were actually spent facing the mainline bosses. A pantheon of mythical champions, colossal kaijus, cosmic unknowable gods, death-wielding shadow beasts, noble tragic heroes, vile twisted horrors, and every demigod and legend in between. And also literal Satan, and literal Satan, and figurative Satan.
I am Melania,
Please,
blade of
no more. And the other best part of those hundreds of hours were spent just being absorbed by and getting lost in this finely crafted world. Everyone says this, but let me stress it. This game is gigantic. It's one great colossal dark fantasy treasure trove to be foraged through and lived in, one assembled with an alien level of detail. The fact this game exists is astonishing. So, Limgrave, lush, expansive, green greens and golden golds, and quite a few residents who wouldn't mind murdering a new player. Truly triple A. So, what heroic adventures did me when I first started playing get up to? Well, about 20 minutes of that, and then wandered slightly uphill into an underground death chamber where I pathetically struggled against the most primary school level dungeon of all time. Stormfoot Catacombs. This was my first foray into the many catacombs and mini-dungeons found across the game. Elden Ring has a handful of legacy dungeons which take the form of intricate, intimidating fortresses, insidious demonic manors, or celestial subterranean space cities. But as for these catacombs and caves, they are small, dirty, shitty holes in the ground, festering with whatever tricks and treats, side note, mostly tricks, the developers felt like dishing out from their magic goodie bag of fuckery. And I had just wandered into the least cruel of them all, Stormfoot Catacombs. This was a formative experience for me because I couldn't just romp through this place like Super Mario. I had to first adopt the Souls combat system. I'm sure you all know it, so for brevity's sake, roll to dodge, swing sword to win, cast spells to cheese. Stormfoot starts with these two imps who, and I'm not kidding, probably killed me more than a lot of bosses did because I was just that new to Souls and sucked at the game. But I learned quickly the Souls fundamental. Die to win. Learn through dying. Die less. Make bad guy die more. The only way to get better at Elden Ring is to get shit on so much that you learn to eat shit and enjoy it. Figuratively, of course. And so eventually I cleared out the dungeon and re-emerged to the surface world with a glint in my eye and a firm grip on my level 0 sword. Okay, I said, bring on the pain. Spend some time in Limgrave and you'll get yourself a horse, a maiden, and a sense that by looking uphill, that big scary castle is probably where you're meant to go. And so I went there. The journey was quick and painless, and then a tunnel where this site of grace suggested the cinematic and suspiciously empty and wide bridge ahead wasn't just there to look cool. As a kid who grew up with video games and YouTube, I'd heard the Dark Souls bosses are hard notion ad nauseum, and I knew I was about to face one. Oh boy, I was about to face one. My first Souls boss.
Hello?
Someone must extinguish thy flame. Let it be Margit the Fell.
Margit the Fell Omen is that first boss, the extinguisher of hope and the crusher of dreams, the doorman of Elden Ring. This gnarled, cloaked, cane-wielding apparition who, as he has with millions of others, put me through hours of an absolute hiding. Margit is a formidable opponent and a cruel, cruel first boss, sniping me from afar, dashing towards me and rattling off rapid, vicious combos, chaining in cane swipes and cutting loose erratic slashes at close range, and leaving me with what felt at the time like zero time to retaliate. And at 60% health, this guy equips his giant piss hammer and all hell breaks loose. Sporadic spinning combos, sword slicing and cane crushing, sending you back to this save point for hours on end. Just non-stop, unending, relentless brutality over and over again. And of course, the unholy star of the show here, Margit's delayed attacks. Winding his cane up to hit you from overhead and holding it up there and holding it up there and holding it and holding it and holding it up there and holding it and holding it, and just as you're drifting off to sleep. The only reason I could have even beat this guy in one sitting was because I just hid behind my summons, firing my magic pea shooter at him to whittle him down from range. I was utterly terrified of getting close to threatening enemies at this point, so please just allow it. And eventually I did vanquish the Fell Omen. I was now getting acquainted with what this game's bosses are. Harsh, ruthless, cold-hearted, and addicting. Defeating Margit unlocked the path to Stormvale Castle, as I mentioned earlier, but before that I decided I should, you know, get good. I didn't think my flimsy cardboard sword and paper clothes were really up to the ruthless mauling I'd be facing. And so, before venturing into Stormvale, I set off into the sweeping expanse of Limgrave and the Weeping Peninsula. My early game was spent ravaging Limgrave for every little thing it had. I remember literally having this image on my laptop and Elden Ring on my TV, and for days just going down the list of bosses and points of interest, purging Limgrave of every enemy, mini-boss, special weapon, useful item, piece of armor, summon, and NPC it had, approaching roaming parties of enemies and outposts as they erupt into frantic, swarming battles, getting shredded by the grizzlies in Mistwood and making Torrent run for our lives, finding small cliffside entrances open up to more complex but dense self-contained underground labyrinths. You'd find these unlockable one-on-one mini-boss arenas called Everjails, taking you to this ghostly shadow dimension to fight off some merciless spectral opponent, and at this point, these were actually genuinely hard. In fact, my fixation with all Limgrave's mini-bosses at the time was obsessive. Seeing the unique design and name and moveset and the little chunk of Elden Ring's lore each one had carved out for themselves was so needlessly fun. There were just so many of them, and I was doing everything for the first time. The Erdtree avatars, for example, these twisted, faceless wooden husks, heavy golden staffs in hand, the guardians of the minor Erdtrees. I remember my first fight against one being this genuinely cinematic and epic fight as I just barely outpaced this creature's vicious golden beams and devastating attacks. The Stone Digger Troll, a troll but stone, skin coarse and unfeeling, hyper-resistant to physical attacks, tearing through the arena with its lumbering, heavy club. The Grave Warden Duelist, gladiators banished from a faraway royal city, now supervising the twisted depths of catacombs with their torturous chain combos. The badass Knights Cavalry and the unnerving, uncanny Deathbirds, both only fightable in the dead of night, two genuinely terrifying bosses at this point. Finally felling them after dozens of attempts refining my skills was so satisfying. The Cemetery Shade, the Bloodhound Knight, the Tibia Mariner, the Demi-Human Chief, the Mad Pumpkinhead, the Crucible Knights, their second phases packed with these dazzling mega-damaging holy moves, the servants of a previous Elden Lord and relic soldiers of a bygone age, Miranda, the Blighted Bloom, this cabbage that kind of just sits there and bobbles around a bit, sneezes on you. Okay. And just slowly picking up on all the subtle seeds of lore that are planted in every corner of this environment. These broken pieces of some ancient megastructure, for instance, colossal in scale and scattered across Limgrave. The item description of their fragments reading as the fallen remnants of a temple in the sky. An unknowable grand location we will actually travel to much later. And the catacombs themselves as well, serving as burial chambers and grounds for ritual, returning dead souls to the Erdtree through its roots, slowly being digested by this bizarre blackened parasite seeping from these roots. What could this possibly mean? Nothing Lovecraftian, I hope. Nothing of morbid, sinister, horrific, mangled origin. I do sincerely hope. Storming Castle Morn felt like infiltrating this grotesque, abominable fortress overrun by savage monsters, and after hours of bloodshed facing the erratic, hard-hitting, legitimately intense Leonine Misbegotten in this ocean-word arena, slaying the mighty dragon Agil, stumbling upon a coliseum, being bathed in the golden rays of the big yellow tree, smelling the flowers, turning Selen's basement here into a goon cave. Man, this is fun. I wonder if that red Limgrave next door is as fun as this place. Okay, that is enough Limgrave. I am now tooled up with some snazzy new gear. I think it's about time we go to the castle. Stormveil Castle. My first legacy dungeon. Stormveil, this behemoth of corpses and stone. Its looming towers just barely escaping thick clouds of miasma and smog. A stronghold once belonging to the mysterious Stormlord, but now taken over by Godric the Grafted and his forces. Fleeing from the royal capital, they settled here in Limgrave, this castle becoming Godric's twisted laboratory for him to practice grafting. The grotesque stitching together of other beings' limbs and parts onto oneself to gain power, or to create new bizarre atrocities like the grafted scions we've been seeing. And it's in Stormveil we encounter this process on an industrial scale. Bloodied, butchered bodies and arms and legs and joints decorate every dining hall and passageway here, with its ramparts and courtyards patrolled by soldiers and knights and trolls and ghastly omens, all equipped to absolutely shred a new player to pieces, as well as birds with knives taped to their feet who aren't friendly like the ones I feed bread to at the park. And again, as we saw in the catacombs, this deathly black parasite eating away at it all, riddling the fortress with holes, and in its gutted underbelly this deformed, sinister thing. Aesthetically, I am a big fan, although this dodgy doorman named Gostock they had working at the gates gave me the creeps, and well, I'm sure he's a nice guy, so never mind. This dungeon is fantastic. My early level and frail character meant I couldn't tackle every enemy with actual combat, and so stealth and evasion became a huge factor. And the parts where that wasn't an option, the brutal slugfest and triple-digit death count I struggled my way through was exhilarating. Paths would lead you back to previous areas or spit you out into new ones, just enough to stimulate monkey brain, but not to the point of monotony or confusion. And there was always the option to tread off the beaten path and do some rooftop parkour to work around things. Storming through courtyards swarming with soldiers and ogres, fending off against trolls and grafted scions and warrior jars and tornado bending knights was just pure adrenalized joy. I even came back in New Game Plus to discover this hallowed chamber under the castle I had no clue about initially, with its own vicious mini-boss encounter with another warped ulcerated tree spirit. This place is the gift that keeps on giving and killing. More killing, but you know. And then I reached the end of Stormveil. Behind this fog awaiting me, a demigod.
Well, a lowly tarnished, plain as a lord. I command thee, kneel! I am the lord of all that is golden.
Godric the Grafted, the first big bad boss that you fight. Hulking and Frankenstein-esque, his lumbering frame a crude amalgamation of countless wriggling, grasping hands and limbs. Yep, this is one ugly bastard. The design of Godric's arena reflecting him perfectly. Golden flowers, huge royal towers looming, grand open bridge, the visage of a dragon, everything to suggest royalty and, as he tries to convince us and himself, gold, but all sullied, beaten, tarnished and decrepit to the point they can't be anything but a disgraced mimicry of grandeur. Just as Godric may wear the crown and regal robes of a lord, while under it being a grotesque abomination, just desperately cosplaying as one. Stormveil similarly, a majestic castle, forsaken. So, Godric. As a boss, I really enjoyed him first playthrough. His attacks were big, heavy axe swings, slams and swipes with long wind-up, lashing out with frantic, flailing combo sequences, crushing, earth-shattering shockwaves and tornado-infused leaps, soaring overhead and crashing down with devastating impact. It's a really fun moveset, but doesn't hold a candle to Margit difficulty-wise. Though the moment that made me think, wow, Elden Ring bosses is good, was of course his second phase, where he chops his own arm off, screams, and then grabs the head of a dead dragon to his severed arm, now using its head as this humongous flamethrower. Godric now becoming this monstrous incinerator, torching you in fiery tornadoes and cremating you in vicious scorching grabs, with all the brute smashing and heavy axing still thrown in between it all. This was a thrilling second phase, but he is now supercharged with draconic fire. Too bad Godric favours his theatrics over his lethality because this fight was over way too soon. He's just too slow and lumbering and didn't follow on from the swift breakneck violence of Margit. Overall though, Godric is always very fun to face, and now Godric had fallen and I had, for all intents and purposes, conquered Limgrave. It was time to go to the next area. Now, I gave another visit to the rotten hellscape next door, Caelid, but still, never mind. Instead, northwest of Limgrave, the next continent of Elden Ring, Liurnia. Liurnia of the Lakes. A huge leviathan of a lake crowned by cliffs and crags and rocky peaks, decorated with haunted houses and magic towers, ghostly libraries swallowed by thick, dense fog, towered over by a royal wizarding academy. This is Liurnia, the land of the Carian royal family, a lineage of prolific magic users headed by the young prodigy Rennala who ruled over this land. Their sorceries founded by ancient astrologers drawing upon cosmic powers from beyond the night sky, the prestigious academy here established to teach them, or at least it was their land. Until it wasn't. Liurnia at some point descending into civil war. The Carians in raging conflict against the rebellion of their own academy, who now turned against the royal family, besieging their manors and imprisoning Rennala deep into the academy, the continent now sunken into disarray. This is Liurnia, a broken kingdom with sorcery running through its veins, and it is all still brilliant. And it is all still Limgrave. See, it sounds silly to say because it's like, well, what did I expect? But the Elden Ring DNA is Limgrave. It is roaming bands of enemies and mini-bosses. It is catacombs and caves and quest lines and everjails. It is outposts and fortresses and towers to hack and slash through. And after having entirely rinsed Limgrave of every drop of that, seeing it again here with a different theme and a different coat of paint, it's still intoxicatingly fun, don't get me wrong, but as the new areas come and go, the novelty of it all slowly wears away. But what doesn't get stale in the slightest is, well, everything else. The deeper into Elden Ring we get, the less the excitement will come from rich open world exploration, and the more it will come from the pure grandiose cinema of the game, the insane bosses, the sprawling legacy dungeons, the legendary story, with the wealth of little side attractions and activities in the background if you still want more of this world to dig through. And Liurnia has plenty to dig through. Ghostly knights and trolls warring against enemy factions, bizarre distorted maddening flames burning burning beside villages of soldiers driven insane. Giant lobsters sniping you, albinorics swarming you, marionette soldiers, royal revenants, and calcified dragons tearing you apart. The ruins of some unknown civilization scattered under shadowed forests, caves and mine shafts and catacombs brimming with a whole new host of beasts and ghouls. And a small entourage of some more elaborate dungeons, the Carian Study Hall for example, this skyscraping colossal chamber. Once a bustling royal library, now this hollowed out haunted skeleton, a dungeon you literally cannot complete right now. Yep, it's a dead end. Took me about an hour to realize that. As it turns out, I could not even finish this dungeon. I needed a little gizmo from a later questline which flips the entire place upside down, making it completable. Wow, Miyazaki's directorial prowess and creativity truly knows no fucking bounds. Or there is Caria Manor. Misladen and crestfallen, the previous home of the Carian family. Riddled with soldiers who once sieged the manor, now captured as spectral puppets. An oddly tranquil and atmospheric dungeon I really like. Its lower levels frantic and brutal, its walkways the same, troll knights, wolves, wizards and bandits patrolling it all, culminating in the ghostly apparition of a much later boss, the Royal Knight Loretta, summoned to guard the manor as she did all those many moons ago. A relatively quick but super engaging boss fight, always feeling really dynamic and fair from all ranges. And behind the manor, 3 mysterious towers, inside one of them Ranni, an important, hugely lore significant character with the largest, most iconic questline in the entire game. A character I forgot about entirely after she provided summons all the way back in Limgrave. Thank you Ranni, see you again in 150 hours, goodbye. And one more thing. Just next to the study hall, this tiny well. Inside it, a lift down, deep down to this underground place. Too large to be a catacomb, too complex to be a cave, this area registering as an entirely new layer of the game on my map. Where am I? Well, I had no clue, so I just fucked off back upstairs. And after a few more hours exploring Liurnia, I decided it was about time to enter what had been staring me down this entire time. The towering regal monolith that is Raya Lucaria Academy, Liurnia's legacy dungeon. Not just a school, but almost a government, Raya Lucaria was founded by 2 revolutionary sorcerers, Lusat and Azur, each catching a glimpse of this unknowable cosmic phenomena known as the primeval current, then establishing the academy to pursue their pure, unbridled hunger for knowledge and command of the stars. Even forsaking their own lives in cases, these sorcerers Selen killing and fusing together countless sorcerers in these nightmarish, screaming, graven masses just to further their interaction with the stars. Sorcerers from all over the lands between traveling to study here. From among these emerging a particularly adept astrologer, the young champion Renala. So powerful she was able to become the master of the academy, bewitching it with her lunar magic and crowning herself its queen and her Carian family a monarchy. Though from the state the academy is in, it's apparent that royal reign has long passed. The dungeon a broken mess, a punishing broken mess. Its corridors rife with sorcerers, all blitzing you with spells, sporadic marionettes and slicing avionettes here to dice you to pieces across stormy rooftops. Ancient aliens, zombified husks, brutal automatons, giant bulls, giant crabs, all clad under this really appealing dark occult academy aesthetic. But gameplay wise, it tends to fall kind of flat for me. You spend a lot of the time not in the deep twisting interior of the school, but out on its grounds and graveyards and rooftops. I wish there was more of these stealthily creeping up on and assassinating legions of sorcerers throughout all their many branching classrooms and chambers instead. But still, as I said, it looks great and the place is soaked in lore. And towards the later end of its runtime, you enter a debate parlor where you are suddenly hounded by the Red Wolf of Radagon. Vicious, swift, agile and sharp, this mini-boss punctuating your dungeon crawl I admittedly always find pretty tough. It's a total glass cannon, so it never takes more than like 4 tries to get it down, but man, those 4 times are always 4 bloody bursts of golden sword slicing and leaping bites. The Red Wolf's moveset is rapid, and this early in the game it can be a real challenge. In fact, it isn't long after this that you end up wandering into the Grand Library of the Academy, and inside it, locked away in isolation, Rennala, Queen of the Full Moon. So here she is, imprisoned, a broken queen, draped in resplendent robes, adorned with a questionable hat, floating in a magic tangerine and cradling a... she's holding a... What is happening here? It was at this point in my first playthrough, like 30 hours in, that I, after having made zero effort to understand the world of this game, realized I had no clue what was going on. When I first watched Elden Ring's intro cutscene, I remember thinking, wow, this art is cool. This is like important stuff, but then forgetting about it as soon as gameplay started. This was the Overwatch player in me, bitterly fighting to rip me away from my new game that is to be consumed without 20 different ultimate abilities playing on screen simultaneously. I'm not going to act like an Elden Ring lore historian right now. God knows many incredible creators have done that far better than I could already. But for the sake of this video, I should maybe go over the game's actual premise, a fantastical and complicated premise. So skip ahead to the time on screen if you wish, and if not, well, it's lore time. Our story takes place in the lands between, but far outside of the game we play exist numerous outer gods. Unknowable, unfathomably powerful entities that reside some inconceivable distance outside of the physical world. Many factions and groups across the lands between worship and connect to them. The giants of the frostbitten mountaintops worship the fell god. The Lord of Blood and his followers are granted powers by the Formless Mother. The god of Rot eats away at the world, and the frenzied flame drives all who know it insane. But the main outer god of Elden Ring as we experience it is the Greater Will. And to make contact with the lands between, the Greater Will sent down a golden star, a star carrying a beast and a bearer of the Greater Will's influence, the Elden Beast. This Elden Beast then transforming into the Elden the Elden Ring, an abstract structure of several interlocking runes, each of these runes governing a different aspect of reality, together forming the Elden Ring, the ultimate instrument of order. That big yellow tree, a symbol of its presence. More simply put, the Elden Ring is order. But establishing the Elden Ring was only one part of the Greater Will's plan. The next step was to recruit a vessel who could rule over the lands between with it. Enter Queen Marika. Probably the most important character in all of Elden Ring, Marika was at some point recognized by the Greater Will and eventually granted godhood, becoming the vessel of the Elden Ring. Now, from this point onwards, characters we will meet later in the video are involved, so I'll explain their lore as we reach them, but to speedrun the basics, Marika established the Golden Order, a governing principle, a religion, a philosophy, itself being the reign of Queen Marika as the Eternal. And during her reign, Marika conquered the entirety of the lands between, genociding races, neutralizing all threats to her power, and having children, her demigod offspring, firstly with Godfrey, the first Elden Lord, their children Morgott, Mohg, and Godwyn the Golden, and 2 more children, Malenia and Miquella, not with Godfrey, but with Radagon, the second Elden Lord, who himself, before this marriage, had sworn his love to Rennala. Rennala and Radagon having 3 demigod children themselves, Radahn, Ranni, and Rykard. Oh, and by the way, Radagon and Marika are the same person. Why? How? Don't ask. I don't know. Though after Godwyn the Golden's assassination, the Golden Order fell into disarray and Marika shattered the Elden Ring in an event known as the Shattering. The many runes of the Elden Ring in their now separated state spread far across the lands between. The many children and descendants of Queen America and Radagon, tainted with their new power, waging war amongst themselves to acquire them. The world as we now experience it in absolute ruin. This explains why Rennala is locked away in this library. The Academy, amidst already growing frustrations, rejecting her as their queen. Seeing the depressed state she sunk into following her divorce with Radagon, they locked her away in here to bedrot and doomscroll in femcell isolation. The egg thing she's holding was Radagon's parting gift to her. It contains one of the many great runes of the Elden Ring. And now, here I am, a Tarnished. One of Godfrey's forsaken soldiers, banished from the lands between by America to one day return stronger, to one day reclaim the Elden Throne. So, Rennala's boss fight. Her first phase is a weird gimmicky one. She's floating in the air, these scholars are throwing books at you, kill 3 of the glowing ones and Rennala will fall to the floor so you can attack her. Absolute nothing burger of a first phase. And then comes her second phase, where you fight an illusion of Rennala, pre-immobilizing depression, summoned as a defense mechanism by Ranni, where the battle now consists of Rennala gliding around, throwing a load of spells at you, summoning enemies, just kind of doing nothing threatening other than occasionally atomizing you in this one-shotting death beam. A boss that, sadly for me at least, gets really old after like 1 or 2 playthroughs. And after defeating her, she remains here, able to change your stats around for you once you realize your build is garbage. She can also change your character's cosmetics. This is when I immediately changed whatever dogshit character I had to instead become an Elden Jack. Credits to the noble redditor who came up with this in the description. Truly a work of art. And that is Liurnia done for now. So where next? Well, I'd heard there was a pretty crazy boss fight in Caelid, and as nightmarish as the place is, I'm tempted. Okay. Caelid it is. Good evening everyone, this is Lugaland reporting live from hell. This is Caelid, a wasteland infected and infested with scarlet rot. A cancerous red plague that consumes and distorts and kills all it can, including me. Itself being the divine essence of an outer god, an apocalyptic world-ending force we will encounter time and time again. And as to why it is here, mutilating Caelid, well, this was once the battleground of the 2 mightiest demigods, General Radahn and Malenia the Severed. Amidst the shattering they fought here, this godly battle ending not in honourable defeat, but Malenia knew King Caelid with scarlet rot, mutating Radahn to senseless animalism and warping the surrounding land from what I guess was just Limgrave 2 into this Caelid, where starry-eyed new players go to die, a place I do not want to hang around. They were going for the brutal nightmare hellscape vibe here, and well, yeah, they nailed that. But a nightmare hellscape is still a nightmare hellscape, and I am more of a lush Limgrave type of guy. 7.8, too much red. There's a joke I've seen around that goes something like, things to do in Caelid, number 1, leave. But this place does have its memorable goodies, alongside the festering catacombs, caves, tunnels, putrefying roaming bosses, plentiful vicious enemies, rotting ruins, titanic, mysterious skeletons, vile alien swamps, and the rest of the general Eldenness you'd expect. Among them, one very memorable thing. One of the most unforgettable in the whole game. So, yeah. Things to do in Caelid. Number 1, greyoll. So the plateaus and hills north of Caelid are actually not Caelid. They are their own sovereign nation known as Dragonbarrow. Greyoll's Dragonbarrow. So, who is Greyoll? This is Greyoll, Elden Ring's largest dragon. Also, Elden Ring's largest early game rune exploit. Come here with a bleed weapon at low levels and mindlessly hack your way to like 10 free level ups. The intended way of killing Greyoll is to kill all of her dragon children who are sleeping around her, comforting her as she slowly dies and their race goes extinct. By killing all of her children, you can make Greyoll die of sadness. But nah mate, dragons are tough. I want to get rich quick, thank you. Number 2, the Bestial Sanctum. At the very northeast of Caelid, there is the Bestial Sanctum, this big cinder block guarded by a touchy fella who can be a bit of a handful. Inside the sanctum, the Inside the sanctum, the beast clergyman, who at the point I met him was a bit of an enigma to me, a cloaked, hunched-over, shadowed beast man who wasn't a boss but an NPC. He wanted me to hand over all the deathroot I had collected and in exchange gave me some bestial spells and souvenirs from the Dragon Barrow gift shop. Strange, I thought. Huh. Well, I guess I'll come back when I have more deathroot then. Number 3. Huge pot guy. Among the 140 plus unique enemies in Elden Ring, one of the most charming you'll encounter are living jars. Jars, but living. Arms, legs, jar. They spin, they explode, they are just generally pretty cool guys. Sometimes you encounter big jar guys, like 5 times bigger than normal, but in Caelid you can find not a regular jar guy, not just a big one, but the biggest jar guy in the universe. Yep, we have found the main character, and we are all just living in his world. All hail the mighty great jar, for he is the mightiest jar of them all. Number 4. The Radahn Festival. There is no Grand Legacy Dungeon in Caelid, there is no Stormveil, no Raya Lucaria, there is only Redmane Castle. On an island south of Caelid, connected to the mainland by a great stone bridge, is Redmane Castle, a marred, decrepit stronghold defended by the remains of General Radahn's once mighty army, and also 2 not-so-cuddly battle cats. I came here expecting some inconceivably large, twisted nexus of rotting castle, but you clear out Redmane pretty quick. It isn't huge, it doesn't wind and loop back on itself or suck you into it for hours. It's hollow, eaten away from the inside out, empty. You think, where's the dungeon? Where's the boss? Where's the climax to this hellscape? And then you walk into the Redmane Castle Plaza. A solemn choir chants amidst the somber night, the crackling fire, armaments hung like bunting, and stood around in anticipation a small army of fellow warriors. Alexander, Warrior Jar, Blyde the Half-Wolf, Lionel the Lion-Hearted, Great Horn, Tragoth, Okina, Patches, Theralina, Jeren, a band of warriors united under one common goal: deliver a final, honorable death to the tragic fallen demigod, Radahn. Then I realized why Redmane wasn't trying to top Stormveil. It's because something else just as cinematic and grand and astronomical in scale is waiting for me here. All these NPCs here to join me in the oncoming raid boss extravaganza. You talk to Jeren and a new cutscene just drops out of nowhere, its whole purpose just to pump the hypometer off the charts. General Radahn, regarded as the mightiest hero of the demigods, now in this barbaric, frenzied, brutish, monstrous state. Frothing at the mouth, mutated to an obscene size, spined with 1,000 arrows and blades. I was about to fight some nutty boss, I could just tell. Some crazy shit was about to happen. Well then, let's fight Radahn. I had my overdramatic readout of the Radahn fight at the start of this video, so I won't go into the nuts and bolts of it now, but let me just emphasize, this fight blew me away on first playthrough. The huge arena, the genuinely cinematic summonable NPC army, the half-health shooting star move, the gravity magic, the speed of Radahn at that size. I feel like I faced Radahn chronically under-leveled at first as well, and it took me a terrifying hour or 2 to take him down. Seriously, I still had my Fisher-Price squeaky toy level nothing sacrificial axe from Castle Morn, and was barely denting Radahn back then, which at the time made him feel like a nightmarish impossible challenge, but in reflection it just made the experience all the more thrilling, and the adrenaline-fueled rush of finally felling this demigod behemoth even more memorable. Yep, this is another Elden Ring classic. Well done, Miyazaki, you truly are Game of the Year. But who was Radahn before he became this monster? Well, as we already know, a revered champion and the apex of the demigod's might, but also a sorcerer, a master of gravitational magic, from his youth learning it in Caelid's town of sorcery Celia, and eventually becoming so powerful he froze the stars of the night sky in place, halting their cycles and preventing whatever fates they may bring. And now he has fallen, these stars are resuming their paths, one of them crashing violently into Limgrave, a crater in its wake so open and beckoning it was like the mouth of some unknown abyssal god calling to me. me. Please, crawl inside my mouth. Okay, sure, I will crawl down inside, no questions asked. And as I climbed down, I watched as rocks and rubble and waterfalls became tiled floors and archways and built-up chambers and lit-up walls. Where the hell was I? Who built this stuff? What is this? Some kind of Nokron Eternal City? Dear God. Deep underground here is Nokron, one of the few eternal cities of Elden Ring, and my first true venture into the cosmic expanse of the game's underground. And no, I somehow didn't go to the Shifa River in Limgrave before this. Just shut up. It's the only thing I didn't do that. A second layer of the lands between, this underground infinity containing even more complex subregions and major boss fights and large explorable areas within itself. A lot of people cite venturing underground as their first oh shit moment when it comes to Elden Ring's true unbelievable scale.
How deep does this go? What?
Going down into what you expect to be a large dingy cave dungeon or something, and instead meeting this galactic vast underground second world that's just been sitting down here below your feet this whole time. It's just pure excitement. Nokron being this quiet, eerie midnight capital resting amongst ancient dynastic remains and flowering forests. By defeating Radahn and coming down here, you are perhaps unknowingly taking your first step into the sprawling questline of Rani. See, these cities were likely once part of the surface world. Their inhabitants, the Nox, you encounter repeatedly as you explore them, a grey-skinned, cold-blooded society of monks and sorceresses and night maidens, all wielding these shape-shifting liquid metal weapons they fashion out of silver tears, the sacrilegious alchemy of the Nox. These metallic blobs you find everywhere down here, formless mockeries of nature built to mimic things. They can become sword, they can become troll, they can become ball, they can even become you. But it was long ago the Nox committed treason against the Greater Will, which then banished them deep underground here, forcing them to live under a false night sky. The Nox left to try and forge their own dragons and their own lords in eternal anticipation of the Age of Stars, the dream of an era where the lands between will be ruled not under the Greater Will, but the Dark Moon, another mysterious outer god and its vassal. And that vassal, should you pursue this ending, is Rani and her consort, you, the player. So yes, funny blob killing time. One special blob actually, the Mimic tier. Special why? Special because it is you. Also, you abuse and annihilate this mini-boss in seconds first playthrough. Come back when you have the Mimic tier as a summon to create a perplexing 3-man meetup of 3 U's, in honor of the classic saying, it's just me, myself, and I. And then after this, I ran into a civilization of some flower child tree-hugging hipster ogre people in this more open, grassy, wooded area just next door. They were kind of just chilling out here, worshipping this dead deer and relaxing, playing some local folk music and being very in touch with nature and the local wildlife. Honestly, they seemed really nice and spiritual. The game was also clearly trying to get me to light up these 6 pillars that were spread around here to trigger something, but I remember lighting up like 4 of them before the need for a sooner dopamine hit consumed me, and I immediately advanced to the next area for some more instant stimulation. I'm sure that was nothing too important anyway. And then, even deeper into the city, I got my hands on the Mimic tier summon, where all future challenge was instantly neutralized and this game became self-playing in the acquisition of such a brutally boss-soloingly busted summon. And also, in the heart of Nokron, treasure chest I am apparently not destined to open. Okay fine, I didn't want to open your stupid chest anyway, that's it, I've had enough. I'm going back upstairs. Now, where was I? Oh yes, Caelid done. Next is the Grand Lift of Dectus. At the very northeast of Liurnia, the cliffside opens up to this colossal ancient chamber, here to lift you up grandly to the next open world expanse. And that open world expanse is the Altus Plateau. I remember a tangible sense of progression hitting me when I first reached Altus. I'm not sure if it was the starkly different colors, the huge physical distance of it from previous areas, the fact I was now so close to the Erdtree, or the sheer amount of time I had now sunk into the game, but a feeling began to creep up on me. Elden Ring, this game I'd shrugged off playing for 2 years, this Souls thing I always thought wasn't for me, this world I never thought I'd know. I was slowly, surely becoming a part of it. I wasn't really a noob anymore. I was actually starting to feel quite Elden. And so I ventured forth into the mid-game. I don't want to do a disservice to Altus here. It is its own fully fledged open world area, but it was at this point that Evergels and catacombs and tunnels and roaming enemies and field bosses lost their novelty. Not their quality by any means, but that spur to spend days and days deeply scrubbing an area was dissolving fast now. I just faced Star Scourge Radahn. I wanted the heads of the demigods, not a 6th Burial Watchdog and a 7th Knights Cavalry. The people of Altus believed they were blessed, for they were born at the foot of the Erdtree here, the land and all its life tinged gold by its rays. Its flowers prized reagents for perfumers, a gorgeous autumnal land now scarred heavily by the shattering. War-stricken battlefields and still manned outposts populating the area, around its center a forest drowning in mist. Crawling with these towering, uncanny atrocities called worm faces, emaciated and humanoid worms burrowed into their heads, their name in the files being de racine, meaning uprooted in French. Perhaps being humans disturbed from the process of Erdtree burial who now live on in this contorted nightmare state. Or at Altus' very north, the shaded castle, derelict and sinking into a vile swamp, it was once ruled over by the House Morai, a sickly family of executioners whose lord grew fixated with millennia, though it's now taken over by Elemer of the Briar, the dungeon's boss fight, a revered hunter from outside the lands between, who was held here for execution yet managed to evade death. A really fun boss fight, able to slash his sword through the air and send it barreling towards you with some unknown force. Or more infamously, Dominula, the windmill village, a village of zombified maidens all hysterically dancing to some unheard festival melody, with heaps of skinned bodies lying around here, all flayed in sacrifice to the boss at the end of the village, a godskin apostle, dressed in robes crudely fashioned out of the skin of flayed demigods and unleashing onto me a surprisingly violent repertoire of twin blade blending black flame butchery across his rapid, sharp moveset. This encounter also is actually really fun, but that's about all the Altus I've really found memorable, the rest of it kind of just blurring in with everything that came before. I think the game knows this could happen though. Altus is half the size of Limgrave and doesn't feel bloated at all. It's here if you want it, and if not, well, it's sandwiched between two far denser legacy dungeons, Leyndell and Volcano Manor. The west of Altus is where things get interesting. You watch as gorgeous lands slowly twist and harden, hills and slopes mutating into violent crags and towers of rock, the golden grasses blackened and lifeless. And before I knew it, I wasn't quite sure where Altus ended and where Mount Gelmir began. Coarse, sharp blades of mountain piercing through ominous skies, a volcano littered with thousands upon thousands of soldiers, all hung, charred and massacred. This is the obsidian titan of Mount Gelmir, the site of what has come to be known as the most horrific conflict of the Shattering, fought between the forces of Leyndell and the forces of Rykard. One of 3 demigod children born of Renala and Radagon, Rykard once served the Golden Order loyally, acting as an inquisitor, his party ruthlessly persecuting all heretics of Marika's rule. Yet, over time, Rykard himself grew in opposition of the Golden Order, eventually defying it and rebelling against it, and, come the Shattering, launching a blasphemous campaign against the Erdtree. Countless followers rallying behind him, seeing him as a noble hero, but the battle that ensued, now an endless stalemate, its wreckage seen all through Mount Gelmir, which itself is a cold-hearted gauntlet of Rykard's torture machines and grafted scions, soldiers and knights and pumpkin heads here to assault you, some even driven insane by the horrors they've witnessed, with worm faces and tree spirits along for the mauling. And as you scramble through all this, you begin to see Volcano Manor, welded into the side of Mount Gelmir, the home of Rykard. Looks fun, I should probably go there. Yeah, not so fast, partner. The devs decided a little stat check was needed before you reach the manor, and so this doggy was let off his leash. This is a full-grown Falling Star beast. This four-legged, obsidian-plated, razor-sharp mandibled, gravity-bending Cyclops beast, its health bar plentiful, its firepower oppressive, and its speed rapid. This thing body bagged me like 10 times at first, and so I just you know, just don't mind me just passing through. Although, coming back to it, this boss is actually super fun to fight. Dodging its moves is so satisfying, and the arena being this glowing crater and the beast being this jet black insectoid chimera is genuinely intriguing. It clearly just crash landed from outer space and is another furthering of Elden Ring's cosmic horrors and alien unknowns, which we will be seeing much more of later. Much more. And it's after this encounter that you do finally arrive at Volcano Manor, Mount Gelmir's legacy dungeon. The torture capital of the lands between, a town once inhabited by Rykard's people, now deserted and sinking into volcanic death, with cages and chained corpses and magma lakes and scorched rooftops crowding with feral hounds and omen killers and undead nobles, magma worms, bloodhound knights, and abductor virgins. These eerie machines scattered all across the game, serving to, well, abduct victims and teleport them to the manor for interrogation. Though whatever spell Rykard imbued them with to do this has worn away. Except for one still functioning in the depths of Raya Lucaria, they are now simply snake-infested killing machines. There's also an encounter with another of the Godskins halfway through the dungeon, this time a Godskin noble. This rotund, skin-wearing freak, armed with blisteringly fast jousts and thrusts, rolling and slamming his way through the arena. The Albinorics are another people born of some artificial creation, likely traceable back to the Nox once again, and it's in the grim chambers of Volcano Manor you can find them, persecuted for the very nature of their existence, malnourished, bound to metal frames, forced into black dumplings, these sadistic helmets used to amplify pain and fear, as well as, most notably, these crudely spliced man-serpents infesting the dungeon, who I died to like 40 times in my first playthrough. These hybrid creatures born of a blasphemous union between Rykard and an ancient heretical deity, the God-devouring serpent. Dwelling deep within Mount Gelmir is this immortal serpentine god, and Rykard had discovered this thing long ago. Already being infatuated with the hexes of the volcano, he grew more and more engrossed in the occult legend of this serpent god, an ancient traitor of the Erdtree. And at some point following the shattering, Rykard fed himself to the serpent, forsaking his noble godhood and becoming this, a wretched, depraved, cannibalistic abomination. And just as he sacrificed himself, he saw briefly a vision of the entire world being devoured by it, and all existence converging into one ungodly serpentine mass. Rykard now eating his former champions and soldiers in a vile bid to increase his power, his men denouncing him, and all who attempted to slay and put him out of this horror being digested and amalgamated into him. And it's in the hellish depths of Volcano Manor that he now resides. Okay, we've seen the volcano part, but where's the manor? Well, the dungeon begins not with the punishing death inferno, but a lavish, dark, crimson house, a convincing front to mask the area's true nature. In here you find fellow Tarnished sitting around, as well as a lady called Tanith who contracts you to join the Volcano Manor. And in one of these rooms you find a letter, a request, for you to begin hunting other Tarnished. Rykard now desires to consume and absorb all power he can, as well as rid the world of any Tarnished who may potentially continue the Golden Order as Elden Lord. And so, this Lady Tanith, Rykard's wife and consort, now employs Tarnished as recusants, convincing them to dispose of their grace-guided kin, and those who fulfill these orders may be deemed powerful enough to meet Rykard himself, where the Tarnished will find not lordly congratulation, but the bloodied maw of the god-devouring serpents. And it is by either fulfilling this Tarnished hunting questline or just making your way through the dungeon itself that you do discover the serpent. Sitting within the bowels of Mount Gelmir in this sinister grand yawning chasm is the god-devouring serpent. A special weapon rests at the entrance of this boss fight, the Serpent Hunter, left behind by previous sacrificed heroes attempting to slay this beast. And now here I am, in the pits of hell, facing Elden Ring's very own Satan, in a gimmick boss fight. Spamming this cartoonishly long-range spear to deal passable damage to the gargantuan health bar of this boss. The serpent lunging at you, biting and hissing and spitting poison and crashing waves of magma at you, smashing and clubbing its head into you. Dodging all of this is actually simple enough, and it's over relatively quick. And then a cutscene plays, a second phase is entered, and you are no longer fighting the god-devouring serpent, but Rykard, the Lord of Blasphemy. This eldritch super abomination, a writhing, screaming conglomeration of thousands and thousands of mutilated people, all unwillingly compounded into this serpentine atrocity. Rykard now coming at you with broad, sweeping sword strikes and thrusts, casting hexes, unleashing swarms of flaming skulls to home in on you, smiting you down in a huge fiery guillotine of demonic hellfire. This fight is never difficult. I took him down in like 3 or 4 attempts at first, but if I was making a tier list of this game's bosses, Rykard, Lord of Blasphemy, would still be S tier every goddamn time. The cinematics of this fight are almost unmatched. The arena, the build-up, the design of Rykard and the Serpent, the way the scenery changes from the huge creepy cave to some cosmic hell dimension in phase 2. This fight is so memorable. Literally made me audibly say, yeah, I'm glad I bought this game when I first faced him. And when you defeat him, he just says, and if you revisit the arena later, his head is here, regenerating since the serpent is immortal, and Tanit's here, desperately eating at it in hope he could still live on within her instead. It's just such a cool boss fight, and a great dungeon as well. And speaking of great dungeons, next we shall head to Elden. Nope, just kidding. We're taking a quick trip underground. This trip included 2 boss fights and 0 deaths. The first of these bosses was the Dragonkin Soldier of Noxtella. I killed him in about 10 seconds. The second of these bosses brought me back to these pillars in Nokron, the ones I was supposed to be lighting 2 weeks ago. Maybe I should light them. All 6 of them this time. I wonder what will happen. Powers gather somewhere in horned remains. Ah yes, dead moose. It was just chilling here swarming with flies before, but now it is glowing. I am going to touch it. And so begins the strangest, most obscure remembrance boss fight in all of Elden Ring, the Regal Ancestor Spirit. The large, reanimated corpse of some giant withered deer, representing a sort of ancient life and death cycle with its flowering antlers and its remains being worshipped by the nearby ancestral followers. Gliding around the arena, showering you with battery acid, stomping its hooves, spewing its ethereal flames, charging and rushing you, equipped with a teleport and even a self-heal. This is the freest boss of all time. But forgivably so. I mean, it's clearly meant to be more of an atmospheric encounter. It's just such a strange and random boss fight that genuinely never feels real. Anyway, that's this hourly underground visit done, I guess. We will be back later. And so we return to Altus, which, as I mentioned, is sandwiched between, on its west, Mount Gelmir, and on its east, Leyndell, preceded by a lengthy, brutal course of mini-bosses and encased behind tremendous, unshakable walls and towering royal monuments. This whole trail leading up to Leyndell really made me feel like I was approaching not just a legacy dungeon that was going to kill me hundreds of times, but a location of genuine huge significance to the Golden Order. A megacity that was once the core of Marika's reign, the golden capital that's weathered the cataclysmic warfare of the Shattering and defended ruthless sieges from ancient dragons and demigod-led armies. I was now entering Leyndell, the royal capital. a sprawling, multi-dimensional, once heavenly city now mired in ruin. Wide, vacant streets, crumbling towns, golden shattered rooftops and walkways and colosseums and sewer tunnels patrolled by a myriad of enemies. Crucible knights, gargoyles, imps, tree spirits, Erdtree avatars, bandits, finger creepers, nobles, Lanedale's knights, with multi-story buildings and winding tree roots and branches connecting the many explorable layers of the capital, all sheltered under the wing of the now petrified ancient dragon who once assailed this city, Gransax. You can easily sink a few hours into this place just picking it apart. There's always some new backstreet or pathway for you to charter, and the capital exists at so many different altitudes. You can be trekking through the wreckage of the lowest levels, hiking your way up the wing of Gransax, and then precariously warring your way across its skyscraping highways within just a few minutes of each other. The leaves of the Erdtree gently showering down over all this, not letting you forget just how close you are to it. This dungeon is punishing, unforgiving, and of customary Elden Ring cruelty, but it was nothing extraordinarily difficult. I mean, I found Volcano Manor personally much more trouble, and if you find your way up high enough via winding routes and castle elevators, you will wander into the Erdtree Sanctuary, where you are ambushed by a golden ghost, an illusion of a much later legendary boss fight, Lord Godfrey. This encounter has a greatly reduced version of the real Godfrey's moveset. However, that moveset, as we will see later, is phenomenal. So even this diluted impersonation of his fight is a frantic dance to stay at his feet, constantly dashing between these devastating axe swings and seismic stomps in a brief but high-octane kinetic burst of combat. The fight's over very quick and leaves just a small stretch between you and the Erdtree. You know that wasn't Godfrey, but who put up this projection of him? Well, if you've been wearing your thinking hat, you may begin to connect some dots. Just think about this. Godfrey, the ghost, was yellow like piss. Okay. Margit, in his fight earlier, used knives and hammers that were the same piss yellow. Okay. And just a couple hours ago outside Lanedale, another apparition of Margit tried mugging me. Okay, so hang on, what's going on here? Well, maybe this piss version of Godfrey and the two Margits I fought earlier were actually the illusory puppets of the real Margit, who is now defending the Erdtree and waiting for me at the end of this dungeon.
Graceless, tarnished. What is thy business with these thrones? Have it writ upon thy meager grave, felled by King Morgott, last of all kings.
Yep, this is him. No longer trolling on one of his Smurf accounts, the real Morgott, the Omen King, ruler of Lanedale, protector of the Erdtree, and fucker of me 60 hours ago. And also wielder of one of the most rapid, hype, thrilling movesets in the entire game. Wielding a roided out version of his first moveset from before Stormveil. Golden knives from afar, golden lances, golden javelins, vicious slashing up close, hailing down a crushing golden shower. His iconic piss hammer gets busted out really early here, and his cane, now shed to reveal a cursed sword, is generously dispersed throughout. Chaining in venomous multi-hit spinning combos with little to no chance for counter, he is scarily nimble, closing distance instantaneously, with a variety of swift movement options to get up in your face with any one of his numerous savage slashes or ridiculous airborne spinning bladed combos. This guy does not play. He's constantly on you, constantly trying to eviscerate and flatten you. Man, it's like nothing changed. And then you take him down to half health and you enter Phase 2. Morgott, now dissatisfied with the limits of piss, floods the arena with shit. The entire arena drowning and set ablaze in his cursed omen blood. Oh, and he also gains explosive blood flame attacks. That's right, Morgott has full elemental control of piss, shit, and blood. And no, he is not slowing down. More combos, more frantic, nigh undodgeable close range flurries, more barrages of... oh. He's dead? He's dead? already? Yeah, Morgott is fantastic for about 2 minutes. He is made of glass. His HP is criminally low and is the fatal flaw in an otherwise superb encounter, especially since the odds of you reaching this fight not over-leveled are quite slim. Morgott lays down in the arena after you fell him, a defeated, withered husk, trying to look like he's Boros from One Punch Man. You're not that guy, pal, trust me. Well, I think that's a pretty big chunk of the game done, and I'm at the Erdtree now. Man, I must be pretty close to the end of the game. Pretty close to the end of the game, he said. What a fool. What an innocent young fool. My child, you are only 60 hours into Elden Ring. The end is not near. You have not yet suffered. You have not yet been dragged into the abyss. But you will. Oh, you will. Don't worry, Erdtree, I'm coming. Knock knock, anyone home? What? Impenetrable thorns refuse all. None may enter the Erdtree. Yep, the Erdtree is armored in impenetrable thorns, preventing the player from entering. As Melina informs you, to get inside, you need the Flame of Ruin, the eternally smoldering fire of an outer god. So powerful it can burn even through the Erdtree itself, and it resides in a faraway snowy land of blizzards and giants. Okay, let's go get the Flame of Ruin. Farewell, Leyndell. I guess this is goodbye forever. Onwards and upwards, Flame of Ruin, here I come.
Wait, don't you feel like you're forgetting something?
What? Forgot something? No.
Don't you feel like there's something calling you back to Leyndell?
I mean, what are you talking about?
There's something below Leyndell. The Wishing Well.
The Wishing Well? What?
Go inside the Wishing Well.
No thanks, I'm off to find the Flame of Ruin. Immediately after Leyndell, you find your way up this lavish wooden elevator, across this stormy patrolled bridge, and up again to a place called the Forbidden Lands. It's a title that makes you think you've just stumbled into some deadly, horrific late game area full of insane enemies and plentiful death, but the place is tiny. It's just this sad, lonely little transitory stretch of land leading up to the oncoming mountaintops. It's done and forgotten in like 3 minutes. Dark, frigid, infinitely enshrouded in dense fog. It's really weird. Of all the named locations, it's got to be the least talked about. It is, dare I say, Elden Ring's very own liminal space. It works well as a very stark aesthetic break from the omnipresent gold colouring of Altus, and really made me feel like I was venturing into unknown lands once again, which I was. At the end of the Forbidden Lands is another titanic, yawning great elevator shaft, the Grand Lift of Rold, which lifts us grandly up to what is in essence the final open world area of Elden Ring, the mountaintops of the giants. A snow-clad, skyscraping land of howling winds and bitter cold. A land once home to a now extinct race of lumbering, fire-bending titans, the Fire Giants. Having taken the mountaintops from the Ice Dragons and living in neighborhood with ancient astrologers, the Fire Giants of these mountains worshipped and were granted fiery powers from the Fell God, and in exchange for these powers, living in servitude as keepers and protectors of the Fell God's fire, the inextinguishable Flame of Ruin. Though for the very nature of its godly power, the flame was recognized as a threat by Queen Marika, who, to prevent it from ever burning down the Erdtree, commanded Lord Godfrey and his forces to march through these blizzarded lands, to massacre the giants and beat both the Fell God and its flame into submission as she initiated her golden age. And so the war against the giants was a success, their towering corpses now frozen, impaled and littering the region's peak. The Flame of Ruin now reduced to but a few embers within the forge of the giants, where I intend to acquire it. So, the mountaintops. It's a weird location. It's geographically huge, on the map being this behemoth of a landmass, but its play space is tiny, feeling unusually linear as well. The path across giant chains and through hollow valleys and vast frozen lakes is pretty clear cut, and the host of hero graves and catacombs and caves and everjails has all the same appeal, but there's like 4 of them. It has just 15 bosses to face, literally half of Limgrave's 30, nearly all of them being reused, and those who aren't being Borealis, the freezing fog, spewer of cancerous one-shot AoE, or Bloody Finger Okina, who is just nothing. A snow area in this game had so much potential, but this just feels really empty and artificially difficult, though of course as always atmospherically and aesthetically it is really nice. The Knights of Zamor, for example, a clan of slender, agile, masked warriors that joined the Erdtree in the war against the giants. The two races, being mortal enemies since time immemorial, encountered in the ruins of their towns here, now liberated from their infinite conflict. And one of their heroes, the boss of the giant conquering hero's grave, a fast, super fun moveset, slashing, elegant swordsmanship and harsh icy frost attacks. Finally, a good, unique boss encounter, first in the Weeping Peninsula, and then again in Altus, and then again in the mountaintops. The area also suffers from terminal no legacy dungeon itis, and it is sadly kind of crippling, but it does have a serviceable, modestly scaled dungeon in the one and only Castle Sol. Remote and hollow, the snow-dusted Castle Sol sits at the very northernmost reach of the mountaintop. A stronghold long forsaken, occupied not by the last remnants of some fallen army, but the ghosts of the last remnants of some fallen army. A violent, frosty gauntlet of bladed lions, warhawks and stray hounds, fighting off against the spectral apparitions of exiled soldiers and brutal banished knights, leaping at you and revolving in a frostbitten storm of damage that sent me back to this site of grace more times than I can count. And then you come face to face with Sol's boss, the veteran commander who stayed in this damned place for ages, even after the master of this castle has long passed. Commander Niall, the last alive of Sol's military. A grizzled, scarred, heavy old man, peg-leg, weathered armor, large badass cape, disfigured face plated behind a tusked helmet. A spectacular boss in my opinion. Well, initially he summons two banished knights, which isn't even that hard, but just no. But past them, a very dynamic, very fluid, very fast-paced, and very fair fight awaits. His moveset, a rush of frost-biting blizzards, whirlwinds, and lightning-fast lightning attacks, with a few hefty halberd swings and jousts mixed in. This moveset is so fun. A lot of his moves are highly telegraphed and heavy hitting, making them a treat to dodge. He'll dash right to you with his semi-slow motion thunderous leaps, daze you with shockwaving stomps, or turn the arena into a reverse air fryer. The key with Niall is to just be patient. Don't be greedy, don't overstay your welcome when punishing him. Show Niall respect and the fight becomes a slow, enjoyable rhythmic waltz between glamorous attacks until the commander falls. And then back out into the snow, I guess. Oh, fuck's sake. The penultimate area of the mountaintops is Flame Peak, a final relentless stretch through an onslaught of gargantuan finger creepers and ravenous mutant crows and dogs, as well as super tanky yeti trolls. The further and higher you go through here, the closer you get to the Forge of the Giants, and so you anticipate the final true boss of this area, and as you approach the Forge, that's exactly what you find. You find the Fire Giant. A 100-foot tall, towering humanoid mammoth iron wall, skin coarsened by eternal winter, arms and legs gashed and wounded, eyes soulless, ginger braids dangling over his hulking frame. The only one left alive of his entire race, spared and enslaved by America to remain here, cursed to forever tend to the flame of ruin. Slamming his big green dish into you, stomping and smashing and crashing waves of snow. This is all very simple to avoid, and hacking at his ankles gets old quick, but of course he isn't just giant, he is also fire. Introducing Slow Fireball and Fast Fireball. This first phase is easy, but it's immediately apparent this guy is a tank. This is where the frustration comes in with Fire Giant, not in the combat, but in the tedium of whittling down such a large HP pool. And then you hit phase 2. Prepare to die. The Fire Giant, ripping his own leg off, offers it to sacrifice to the fell god, whose visage now awakens upon him, becoming this monstrous, flaming vessel of the cosmic outer god. The fight entirely transforming as you fight a fleshy, moving volcano. Incendiary bombs raining down across the arena. You're onslaughted by double the amount of fireballs, roasted by plumes of flame. Giant ignited palms crashing down onto you, roaring fire fire breath engulfing you in horrific, rage-inspiring hitboxes. Your run can end at any moment here. The giant has an arsenal of ultra-damaging moves and you just can't lose focus. You need to remain constantly spatially aware in this phase, lest your run be ended in 1 nanosecond, crushed and one-shotted under the galactic weight of the fire giant's right deltoid, as he gently rolls over so he can be a bit more comfortable. The fire giant is a tedious fight in my opinion. It isn't terrible, it's just a monotonous first phase, and getting crushed like a fly after a grueling 10-minute chase down is not fun, but I've got a Flame of Ruin to collect, so sorry buddy, you're toast. And now I am on my way to the Forge of the Giants. Flame of Ruin, here I come.
Wait, don't you feel like you're forgetting something?
Oh my, you again, who are you?
I'm you.
You're me.
There's something under Lanedale.
Under Lanedale.
The Wishing Well. Go inside.
Well, back to Lanedale, I guess. Bizarrely, there is a legacy dungeon within a legacy dungeon to be discovered in this game, and it takes the form of a depraved underground complex beneath Lanedale. Accessed through this inconspicuous, decrepit water well are the twisted depths of the subterranean shunning grounds. A system of sewers and dungeons that spreads out far and wide below the capital, crawling with all kinds of shunned creatures banished down here and left to spoil in disgusting filth. Most notably of these being the Omen, those born without grace and with cursed blood, recognizable for their ghastly, brutish appearance, covered in countless beastly gnarled horns which, though once upheld as divine features, were reviled as impure and abominable under Marika's rule. And so they are now imprisoned underground here, or used as soldiers above ground. Morgott himself, also a born Omen, the Omen King, and even despite him being a literal demigod and the firstborn son of Marika, he was still confined to these grounds under Lanedale for his Omen form. Yet even after his banishment underground and abandoned by his own mother, he still emerged to defend the royal capital and the Erdtree after the shattering, loyally defending the Golden Order that spat in his face, a true, honorable hero. He is dead now. This place is a foul, festering labyrinth of puzzling pipes, chambers, tunnels, and pathways looping back on themselves. Torture dungeons, waterways, and grotesque dung and blood-splattered rooms tangled up in a beyond maze-like arrangement. The Shunning Grounds has the most confusing and disorientating layout in the entire game, all of it clad in this rancid sewer aesthetic. It's genuinely vile. However, this is obviously what they were going for, and they executed the unpleasant cesspit idea perfectly. The pipe mazes that confound and frustrate you are claustrophobic and grimy, and they will repeatedly spit you back out to exactly where you were 5 minutes ago, regardless of how sure you were that you were finally getting somewhere. Every path here seems to somehow wrap back around to this dingy, moldy, omen-patrolled roadside, but each time you do end up back here, you open up a new door or gate connecting it all together. I never really felt annoyed by this place, despite its distinctly maze-like design. I just had to be extra attentive to where each path would take me, and it made the eventual moments where I would navigate to somewhere new really satisfying. I also just actually know the layout of this place from memory after having played it so much now, which is just proof I need to touch some grass. A lot of people dislike this dungeon, but I actually like it quite a lot for what it is. Sometimes you'll end up in a fumigation chamber of various status effects, other times a swamp with a giant lobster, or maybe you'll wander into another pipe again. That's the beauty of this unsightly place. You never know what you're gonna get. It's always a treat. Eventually the dungeon opens out to a much larger vertical chamber in what is called the Forsaken Depths. And while sitting around in this chamber, I began to hear louder and louder Benny Benassi's 2002 electro house hit single Satisfaction playing somewhere nearby. I figured this was some sort of underground rave, so I decided to go take a look. Hello? Fellow ravers? Oh, this is no party, is it? This is the Cathedral of the Forsaken, the arena for the boss of the Shunning Grounds, Mohg the Omen. Much like the Margit fight from earlier, this is not actually the real Mohg, but an illusion of him, and so this fight also includes a much less theatrical moveset than his true later encounter. But this is still a fundamentally good and very fun fight for me. Mohg fighting with an arsenal of explosive blood flame magic and numerous hefty trident attacks. Broad, heavy swings following up on each other with craftily delayed timing. Fiery blood splashed onto you to deny space. You're charged at and skewered, and bloody combustions are set off at close range. Mohg's trident attacks are easy enough to memorize and very satisfying to dodge, if a tad easy, though to balance this out, the blood flame moves still keep you on your feet and punish you for hugging him too affectionately. Overall, this is a solid encounter and a delicious appetizer for the demonic insanity masterpiece that is Mohg later on, and the arena does well enough the spooky, sinister underground vibe that defines the entirety of the Shunning Grounds. But wait, what was this illusion of Mohg protecting down here? He must have been guarding something significant, something powerful.
Access granted. George Droid online.
Oh my demigod, secret passageway, guide me. Show me the secrets the Omen was hiding. Show me. Show me. What the fuck? Where am I? What is this? Well, with the subterranean Shunning Grounds complete, I'd say that's the mid-game done. And into the late game I go. Back to the Forge of the Giants, back to acquire the Flame of Ruin, to burn through those pesky, pesky thorns. While sat atop the forge, Melina asked me if I was ready to commit a cardinal sin. Yes. She then lit the Erdtree on fire. Hello, late game. I awoke in some faraway, strange place, a crumbling monochrome stone something, surrounded by belts of rock and legions of dragons soaring overhead. I had awoken in one of the final show-stopping, uber-complex areas of Elden Ring, what was for me the penultimate legacy dungeon of the entire game, a place known as Crumbling Farum Azula. Beating draconic heart of Elden Ring, a shattered beastly super complex scattered around a colossal roaring tornado, an impossible labyrinth to forge through, with an infinity of chambers and mausoleums and altars and bridges and balconies and passageways and tunnels and corridors and woods and secret hidden away areas and stunning monochromatic set pieces and lots and lots and lots of death, killing, murder, and death. Courtesy of the brutal forces of Farum Azula, a rogues gallery of huge, thunderous ancient dragons, smaller, thunderous ancient dragons, savage beastmen of various weaponries, crucible knights, banished knights, worm faces, skeletons, warhawks, a draconic tree sentinel, all of which tortured me for hours when I first came here. Farum Azula is incredibly dense, with like 5 floors of dungeon laying on top of each other, all intertwined and explorable, and is one of the most impressive areas in the game. A huge broken temple in the sky, with its scattered pieces found all over the lands between, the storm it's circling around a portal through time. The last bastion of the ancient dragons who once ruled over the lands between in an age before the Erdtree, an area paradoxically rich in both mystery and lore, and I honestly still don't quite understand this place. Apparently it's a temple, a once royal city, and a mausoleum enshrining an ancient dragon lord all at the same time. All I knew was that I was here to find destined death, and on my way there I wandered into this open, dusty room where I was greeted by 2 old friends of ours, Godskin Fat and Godskin Skinny. For fuck's sake. Here resides the Godskin duo. The Noble, the Apostle, and you, a frantic, torturous inferno of black flame and a violent, relentless blender of piercing, jowsome blades. The 2 Godskins juggling you in the air in this cruel 2v1 beatdown, or as it should be called, the Godskin health bar. Because this fight has a weird thing where when you kill one Godskin, they just respawn in again a little bit later. The encounter doesn't end until you've depleted the health bar at the bottom of the screen, and it's more than both Godskins health bars put together. Like, you'll literally kill both at some point and just have to chill in this empty arena for a couple seconds until they respawn. So yeah, in terms of gameplay, jank, absolute jank. Yes, I know, GODWYN Duo bad, please subscribe. For a more professional analysis, feel free to consult any one of numerous Reddit essays detailing why the fight sucks. These don't feel like two enemies designed to synergize with each other. They are both very fast and aggressive, and so the fight can get quite frantic and violent at times in a way that doesn't feel totally fair. Too often have I been immersed in a one-on-one exchange with one of the GODWYN bros, only to be knocked out of it by some stray random projectile from the other one, and then subsequently ragdolled by both. This is literally just fighting the noble and the apostle at the same time. Not too inventive, quite annoying and tedious, and memorable for all the wrong reasons. On my first playthrough, I actually remember enjoying this fight somehow, but that was with my mimic tier, which was probably why. Following this are some refreshing, more open areas to rampage through, and a great deal of draconic death to keep struggling through, and at the end of it all, you are taken up to the Great Bridge of Faramazula, where you enter this towering stone sanctum and encounter the Caelid crackhead, the deathroot munching fiend from earlier in Caelid. Why is he here? Yep, it's the beast clergyman, except this time not so friendly. The cloaked, feral, slobbering, hulked-out beastman rushing towards you with an assault of quick, knife-slashing combos and shotgun blasts of rock, hurling boulders at you and ripping the ground asunder to clobber you with stone. It's a decent enough first phase, not too hard to get the timing down, and beyond that it's a relatively short-lived exchange, some satisfying moves to dodge, but nothing too euphoric, and the aesthetics of this first fight are muddy and shoddy. It felt a bit like I was fighting an angry blob of cement in a cement mixer. The arena as a whole is quite spectacular, but it all blurs together in combat for me. And then Phase 2 hits. Phase 2 is pure insanity. The beast clergyman unleashing his true form, revealing under his burly beastman cosplay that he is actually the coolest and most badass edgy persona anyone's ever created. Malekith, the Black Blade. I am now the chew toy of the most ruthless dog in the lands between, and oh boy does this dog bite. Malekith is a killing machine, using some of the most flashy anime-esque combos in the entire game, some of the most obscenely powerful attacks in the entire game, and having one of the sleekest, most wicked cool designs in the entire game. An obsidian-plated, silver-maned werewolf bullet train of DPS, a frantic royal beast, who never gives you a chance to breathe, never gives you a chance to stand still, who is constantly soaring over your head to land down with devastating, lacerating crimson explosions, constantly flinging arcs of death towards you, who is literally physically wielding the concept of death itself in his hands and using it to annihilate you in mere seconds. The sheer velocity of this fight is immense. It's one manic, mega damaging fireworks show of death. All of his attacks ignited in this scintillating blood red and gold fire, which just looks unbelievably good, even when you are ignited with it, and your run, which was looking so promising, is shot dead in an instant. This fight is ridiculously fun to play, even if some hitboxes can feel overly cruel, and he is the definition of a glass cannon. And if he hits you with his sword, good luck. It reduces your max HP, causes brutal damage over time, and gives you AIDS. Yeah, this sword of his is busted. Who gave this doggy such a dangerous toy anyway? Well, lore. Elden Ring's lore gave it to him, because Malekith is the shadow-bound beast of Queen Marika, a being granted by the greater will to live in absolute loyalty to their master, her sole need of Malekith for him to be a vessel carrying the Rune of Death, or Destined Death, one of the many runes of the Elden Ring, and the one in particular that governs the concept of death itself, turning it into Malekith's sword, the Black Blade, and with death removed from the world, no living thing can ever truly die. Ever, allowing Marika to literally deny death and grant immortality to herself, her demigod offspring, and whoever she wanted, hence her name as Queen Marika, the Eternal. However, a piece of death was eventually stolen by Ranni, Malekith then sealing it away in his flesh so it could never be stolen again, and assuming his disguise as the beast clergyman, going around gathering all the little pieces of stolen death that had scattered around the lands between so he could reassemble death itself. That's why he was lurking around all cracked out begging for the good stuff in Caelid. He just really wants some death root, man. It's for the Rune of Death, I promise. Non-recreational use, I'm sure. But unfortunately, Malekith, I, tarnished Soy Jack, want Destined Death for myself, so Yeah, hand it over, buddy. Oh, what's that? You don't want to just give it to me. You want to kill me many times instead. After defeating Malekith, the Rune of Death appeared before me, now fully unbound and under my control. In combination with the Flame of Ruin, I can now finally burn down and kill the Erd Tree. Returning to the main map, the Erd Tree now entirely aflame. The iconic Game of the Year gold gone. Smouldering embers now raining down on me, nothing but deathly fire awaiting my skyward gaze. And almost all of Elendel now buried under hundreds of meters of thick ash fallen from the burning Erd Tree. This is no longer Elendel, the illustrious royal capital, but Elendel, the Ashen capital. Calling this an area in the same vein as most others, or heaven forbid the original Elendel, is entirely false. This is simply an interlude between fights. A quick jog through this place and up the deserted towers of Elendel is all that separates me from the Erd Tree. Or that is, after the epic showdown against Sir Gideon Ofnir the All-Knowing. Who? Yeah, I was asking the same question. I'm on about this guy, standing in this room thinking he is the final boss.
Or not, it'll work out. Take a McDonald's soda cup cap and stick your dick into the straw hole.
Sir Gideon Ofnir is his name. Projectile spam is his game. A weird, brief mini-boss punctuating your ascent through the capital. Gideon is just a squishy dude who tosses a load of spells at you. You could kill him in like 30 seconds, he could kill you in 3. Roll the dice, see who wins, moving on. And so closer and closer I got. All the fantastical places I'd been so far, all the demigods I'd felled, all the memories I've made, it all washed over me. I didn't know if there was much more Elden Ring for me to experience at this point, and I begged, don't leave me yet, Elden Ring, please. Until, in the same place I'd fought Morgott tens of hours before, I encountered him. This may be my favourite boss fight in all of Elden Ring.
Long and hard didst thou fight, tarnished warrior.
This man is no demigod, he is no monstrous cosmic deity, he is but a tarnished warrior just like me. A man who's conquered nearly every dominant race, feared warrior and lord across the lands between. Lord Godfrey. By the end of his campaign of war, his army stood undefeated, his might unmatched. With his final enemy vanquished, the golden hue in his eyes faded, his grace lost. Marika banishing him and his warriors to the brutal unknowns beyond the lands between, to one day return stronger, to one day reclaim the Elden throne. So here he stands before me, cradling the body of his dead son Morgott, both Godfrey and I, the player, the two most ruthless, unfallible tarnished who have ever tarnished, both here to claim title of Elden Lord, and there can be only one. And so the battle begins, against Godfrey, the first Elden Lord. Godfrey's first phase is a relentless, point-blank, axe-swinging, ground-pounding slugfest. It's extremely close-up, rapid, fluid combat and is so infinitely fun. His axe swings heavy and hard-hitting, yet fair and telegraphed, with numerous earth-shattering, arena-shaking gargantuan stomps and slams. Volcanic ravines and seismic shockwaves tearing across the arena. I've memorized each one of his combos and axe-based moves perfectly. Dodging into them to get a hit or two before immediately refocusing to dodge the next is a thrill. This first phase seriously turns into a fucking rhythm game at points, and it is intoxicating. What if Clash of Clans Barbarian, but Elden? And this first phase isn't even near Godfrey's full wrath. This is all still with Serosh upon his back, suppressing his true power, until it isn't half health. Serosh begins to materialize the fight against us in physical form, but Godfrey, testosterone levels surging over 9,000, murders Serosh in cold blood, ripping the Lord of Beasts apart with his bare hands, revealing his true form. Not the royal facade of Lord Godfrey, but the true him, the barbaric, untamed warrior, Horan Lu. Armor tossed aside, axe abandoned, brutish rippling blood-soaked muscles unveiled. The true him, not the lordly persona he had to put on for Marika. This is no longer two honourable tarnished dueling, but a raw primal contest of violence. Horalu's moveset a complete departure from phase 1. Claws, grabs, tiger swipes, Street Fighter combos, choke slams, power bombs. He doesn't spend a fraction of a second standing still, always chasing you down, dashing, turning, closing distance feverishly. feverishly, bludgeoning and beating the life out of you with his bare fists. This second phase feels like playing a totally different game, seriously. I feel like a fucking matador narrowly dancing around a raging bull here. This frenzied, murderous animal gunning for me, zero time handed out to heal or recuperate, just constant unending pressure. You have to match his energy or this man will put you in a fucking cutscene. Godfrey turns into a fucking Tekken character here. It's a vicious struggle to fit in a single attack without being grabbed and crippled for mistiming it. Hoaraloo is an absolutely world-class boss fight. Insanely tough, very engaging, and super fast-paced. My only gripe is that the arena's not that interesting. Since Godfrey likes to stomp so much, maybe they should have made him stomp through the floor, sending us into a second underground arena or something like Thugly in Donkey Kong Country Returns. I also like Godfrey because he shows you respect the entire time. Even when defeated, he's like, yeah, fair enough mate, you're Elden Lord material. It creates the illusion that I'm partaking in an honorable activity when in reality I'm sat in my room rotting playing a video game for hours on end. What's that, mother? A girlfriend? A social life? Why would I want that? Becoming Elden Lord is far more important than these trivial things. And with my only real competition for the Elden Throne eliminated, I entered the Erdtree. And yes, it is now final boss time. The inside of the Erdtree was cavernous and hollow, the radiant gold of its exterior absent, and imprisoned within here, Queen Marika. Crucified and hanging far above and before me, body shattered and broken, womb impaled, motionless, until she sensed an Elden Chud approaching. The rune arc crumbles, Marika falls to the ground. Now released from bondage, she takes hold of her hammer, her hair turning red, her frame becoming masculine. Marika becomes Radagon. Radagon of the Golden Order. Face cloaked in shadow and veiled under cursed red hair, his broken body subsumed by an inky black writhing mass, the Elden Ring itself glowing from within him. Yep, that's Radagon. Time to dance. Radagon is not the most difficult boss, nor is he the most spectacular, but what Radagon is a simple, reasonable mandate of skill. Can you evade rapid approaches? Are you patient and calculated with delayed attacks? Do you deal with AoE hitboxes well? Do you get greedy? Do you punish when you should? Do you roll behind enemies to gain space? Do you read attacks well enough? Are you a decent player? Are you really Elden enough? This is what Radagon asks of you. Gliding towards you at breakneck speeds, hammer swipes and slams forming skull-caving combos, stomps and jousts interlaced between, golden javelins and piercing bolts of light, brutally fast, forcing you to read his body language in constant anticipation, diving down with devastating impacts, fracturing the earth with repeated heavy hammerings, locking you into precisely timed dodging. He'll teleport with sudden blasts, reminding you dodging inwards and pure aggression isn't law, and he might just grab you by your scrub neck, reenact the shattering on you, and rearrange your face. All of these moves chaining together one after the other in silky smooth Elden synchrony. Sometimes quite aggressive, silky, smooth Elden synchrony. Radagon is fast, heavy-handed, and fair. He blitzes you with his moves, but only because you should be able to adapt to it. The main theme of Elden Ring blasting in the background, you at the culmination of your skill and experience, a one-on-one, no bullshit, no items, Fox-only, final destination, core mechanics boss fight. The game's asking if you really deserve the Elden Throne. I prefer the flashier, more colourful boss fights, and I've never found Radagon particularly challenging, but still, fighting this haunting, crumbling, marionettish animation of Radagon inside this vacuous, dying interior trunk of the Erdtree, it's pretty nice. But when you do finish him off, the fight doesn't end. It instead becomes even more Elden. As Radagon falls, the inky shadow comprising his arm begins to amass around his body. Pure, utter darkness flooding out under Radagon, consuming not just him, but the entire arena. A colossal unknown arm emerging from the abstraction, swallowing Radagon into the abyss and pulling him back out as a twisted sword. The darkness slowly, surely becoming something radiant, something beautiful. Out of it arising, the Elden Beast. With tendrils and roots sprouting out of its amorphous form, each of its appendages and masses flowing with stellar lights and extraterrestrial luster, like a living, moving chunk of space running on the lifeblood of some unknowable presence. This creature is unlike anything we've seen so far, and it is magnificent. The aesthetics of the Elden Beast encounter are next level. The arena is made to look boundless and serene and genuinely beautiful. Golden sunsets and glowing Erdtrees bouncing off of the shallow waters. This is the sweeping ethereal canvas universe across which you face the Elden Beast. So immersive, this will be boss fights in 2013. The fight, however, is quite easy, time consuming and not too fun mechanically. A lot of Elden Beast attacks are very simple to dodge. Exploding galaxy clouds, shards of holy Eldenness, sparkling comets homing in on you, scorching cosmic fire breath, a literal black hole and a slew of other divine attacks. It's all flashy and big, but very, very dodgeable. Close quarters combat against a big lumbering space whale is also inevitably a bit janky looking. And in general, when Elden Ring goes big with its bosses, actually attacking with a close range build is dog shit. Not to mention the ginormous scale of this arena. Half the time I was just closing the continental gap between us so I could actually deal some damage. This is a war of attrition against a Vincent van Gogh painting. Very pretty, but slow, meandering and monotonous. Then again, the high-octane thrashing supersonic showdown you would hope for in this game's final boss is still here with Radagon, who you have to fight first every time, so I see Elden Beast more as a scenic victory lap after all the pain and suffering, the elegant and less demanding limp towards final victory. And so, with the Elden Blob felled, I did limp, battle-hardened, scarred and grizzled, towards the broken Queen Marika, inheriting a fractured world and becoming the ruler of a new age, mending and brandishing the Elden Ring, and becoming Elden Lord. Sitting on the Elden Throne, in From Software's 2022 action role-playing game, Elden Ring, all alone. TV screen glaring, the only light in my dark, cold bedroom, controller resting idly in hand, just sat there, alone. I should have been fast asleep hours ago. I'm Elden Lord now, but life doesn't feel any different. I feel the exact same. What could possibly be missing from this empty, hollow, day-to-day existence? Maybe my mother was right. I really should go out and interact with other humans. I really should. Wait. That stuff can wait. There is more Elden Ring to be played. More bosses, more areas, more legacy dungeons, more, much more. So, what will it be? Boring real life or fun Elden Ring? Fuck it, more Elden Ring. So despite the credits having rolled post Radabeast, I was not done. There were still numerous major boss fights I hadn't yet faced, and so I made a hit list to track them all down, each of them requiring me to endeavour into new, sprawling, illustrious environments as per usual. My hit list included the following targets: Dragon Lord Placidusax, Moog Lord of Blood, Estelle Natural Born of the Void, Lich Dragon Fortisax, and Millennia Blade of Mikola. And now it is my mission to truly beat Elden Ring, to track down and murder each and every one of them, starting with the legendary Dragon Lord Placidusax. Remember back in crumbling Farum Azula how the entire place was said to be a mausoleum enshrining an ancient Dragon Lord? Well, that lore is real. In an era before the Erdtree, the world was ruled by the ancient dragons. Above them all was Placidusax, a five-headed draconic kaiju who ruled as Elden Lord from the royal city of Farum Azula before it was crumbling. And this Dragon Lord now resides somewhere within this storm, the storm beyond time. But I hear you ask, how does one enter a storm beyond time to challenge an ancient Dragon Lord? Come on. That has to be a rhetorical question. Isn't it obvious? Platform down these hidden rocks, go to this exact spot on a random chunk of mausoleum and take a nap in front of the tornado. This causes time to rewind. Why does lying down here cause time to rewind? Don't ask. I don't know, it just does. Crumbling Farum Azula is then uncrumbled and you are taken to the resting place of Placidusax in all its glory. And hovering above all in complete stasis, the Dragon Lord himself, waiting for his god. And as you approach, he awakens, emerging from his cocoon and unfolding to reveal his full draconic prowess as Dragon Lord Placidusax. immediately blasting the arena with a storm of red lightning. Wide wing smashes, bites and tail swipes, and lightning charged claw swings following up on each other. Plumes of blistering yellow fire billowing out of his roaring heads, Placidusax even nuking the entire arena with this supercharged crimson lightning spear of apocalyptic explosive electro megadeath. The cinema of this fight is absolute, but for me it is not fun at all gameplay wise. Quick editing note here, I've just been refacing Placidusax for this section and unbelievably I am actually really enjoying it now. For the first time ever, the challenge feels fair, and I guess I've gotten gooder since last time because I'm finding it pretty easy. I still agree with a lot of the points I make in this bit, and he is huge, so again melee combat looks as janky as all hell, but I don't know. I've gone from a avid Placidusax hater to thinking he's possibly like rykard levels of goated. I actually can't tell. Anyway, back to the video. Placidusax's health pool is ridiculous, and I find the constant spawning in of random fire and lightning AoE hitboxes engulfing me in instant inescapable death really annoying. And then, phase 2 hits. Placidusax now vanishing into ghostly ash, rematerializing with vicious lightning claw attacks, constantly phasing in and out of physical form to hack and slash you over and over. You need to stay constantly vigilant to evade these devastating death swipes while racing in to narrowly edge in some attacks of your own. He also gets these just fucking cruel dual lasers, engulfing the arena in flame before piercing the air with these horrific one-tapping death beams. These murder-promising runs in a split second way too harshly, and they also move really erratically. +1 points for aesthetics there. Red lightning thundering down everywhere, this huge mangled dragon beast assailing you from all angles, infernal golden fire and zapping claws tearing through you non-stop. This last phase is pure chaos, absolute unrelenting chaos, and it is beyond punishing. This phase can drag out for ages as well, since Placidusax barely gives you an opening for attack sometimes. It becomes near enough the perfect spectacle fight, but it's just a shame your run can end in an instant from various sudden moves. Not to mention the run back to the fight is a slog. Dragon Lord Placidusax's grand theatrical reckoning is memorable for its visuals and atmosphere, which it executes undeniably well. But past that, at least for me, it's just pain. So that's one down. Who's next? Well, I've heard some pretty nasty things about Millennia, so I might leave her till last. Estelle, natural born of the void. You are next. Which means Ranni time. Basically a good 20 minutes flipping above and below ground, collecting some trinkets for and from Ranni to complete her quest line. I did get to finally open that destined chest in Nokron, but all it gave me was some gross little finger slayer blade. It's all sticky and apparently able to harm the greater will or something. You take it, Ranni, I don't want it. When will I get some non-sticky items in this questline anyway? A miniature Ranni doll. Non-sticky, did I say? Not for long. Honestly, doing Ranni's questline after ignoring it for so long was really fun. Gaining access to all the underground areas that were a mystery to me earlier, and exploring a second Eternal City in Nokstella was just a chill, relaxing little expedition through more gorgeously architected, hauntingly empty cityscape banished deep underground here. In fact, at this point, I was so deep into Elden Ring, it was starting to feel real. But after some more time spent culling the horde of blobs and ants and knocks, things went from ethereal marine blues to red. Red mist, red shadow beast attacking me, everything is getting red, and my god, what's that smell? Ah, this is the smell, the lake of rot. A wide, far-reaching reservoir of putrid, bubbling scarlet rot, the divine essence of the god of rot itself being sealed away down here, vanquished long ago by a mysterious lore-bound figure, the blind swordsman. The servants of rot still down here in vile worship. Apparently Miyazaki has a thing for putting agonizing poison swamps in his games, and this is Elden Ring's agonizing poison swamp. A foul, corrosive ocean of rot, wading through it for mere seconds, inflicting you with the status effect, flushing your health bar away in real time. This place really is not nice, but there are a few charming little side quests and activities to do down here, and I admittedly did enjoy working away at them. So here they are. Things to do in the lake of rot. Number 1, leave. Just leave. Fuck this place, I'm out. What's that? There's a dragonkin soldier I can fight while waddling through putrefying liquid death. No thanks, mate. I'm just fine. Unfortunately, the only way past the Lake of Rot is through the Lake of Rot, which also takes us through the Grand Cloister, a large temple encasing a canal of rot. It's an area utterly infested with this omnipresent fungal blight. The enemies are scuttling an insectoid. It feels both primordial and alien here. How creepy and cruelly, and you died some. It seems the only logical thing to do here is jump inside this coffin and send myself barreling off the side of this cliff. Just as I predicted, it worked. I am now in a beautiful, serene cave, some immeasurable distance below Liurnia, feeling purified of my rot. Everything is making a lot of sense so far. Now, let's see who's waiting for me behind this fog. And there it is, Estelle, natural born of the void. This vaguely insectoid wriggling ribbon of stars and cosmic unknowns, fluttering wings, deformed slender humanoid limbs outstretched, frightening mandibles protruding from an uncannily human skull. Estelle's design is bizarre and unnerving and otherworldly in the best way. Its moveset keeping up this theme, bending gravity and manipulating the cosmos at its will. Piercing space beams rip through the arena. Violent gravitational lifts and shockwaves and slams grab and concuss you. Volatile galactic mist engulfing you in AoE. Estelle throwing a flurry of brutal mandible crunches and tail stings and smashes across the arena, snatching you off the ground and gnawing on your bones, raining down upon you a battering meteor shower. It's all very dazzling and spacey. The arena itself as quietly, ominously graceful and delicate as the eternal city that came before it. The whole thing is very pretty in a weird way. However, it is also very completable in an easy way. The big meteor shower was probably the only move I was consistently hit by. Still though, a fun enough boss fight with nice spooky alien aesthetics. The kaleidoscopic blue eye of Estelle is also the same as the falling star beasts. They even use the same skull model for it, sharing the same mandibles and barbed tails also, suggesting the falling stars may be lesser developed larval forms of the adult Estelle. And this fully developed creature I am now encountering the final blossom of some absurd astrobiological life cycle. And with Radahn no longer alive to hold back the stars, it's likely many more of these things will come crashing down into the lands between. Now that's 2 out of 5 targets neutralized. Just 3 remain. Millennia, Moog, and Lich Dragon Fortisax. Next on my hit list is Lich Dragon Fortisax. No, we are not clawing our way out of the underground just yet, because further on past the ancestral woods and through the Shifra Aqueduct is another stone coffin to climb into. Yep. Seems legit. Once I was in with my seatbelt on tight, it floated up the waterfall with me safely inside and transported me to the next entirely different area. And then here I was in some murky, gloomy, abysmal, gigantic forest. I was in the deep root depths. The emotional aura of this whimsical underground safari I'd been on for the last couple days just completely reset. I was far beneath the Earth Tree now. These colossal mouldering trees are its roots, stretching down here into their sepulchral grave. The whole place feels like it's gone stale, like it's been robbed of its colour and left to starve. The butchered corpse of the third eternal city lies down here, facing out with an empty stare into an abyss of death. The Earth Tree's greatest roots twisting and deforming into agonizing knots, like looking into the defiled remains of a dead god. Thus is the deep root depths, the dismal purgatory of Elden Ring. Not aggressively hellish or evil looking, just wasting away in abject misery. I never want to spend much time in this area, but weirdly that feels right. It's not like I don't want to be here because it's a boringly designed area, it's just a horribly unwelcoming place, and it's supposed to be. But where is this city's pretty lo-fi wallpaper? Well, the description of Estelle's remembrance reads the following. A malformed star born in the lightless void far away, once destroyed an eternal city and took away their sky. This is the third eternal city of the Nox, but it was destroyed by Estelle and had its sky ripped away. The starry night in Estelle's cave is probably that same stolen sky. In summary, Estelle got a cool light up LED night sky for its bedroom, and the Nox lost an entire capital city. I spent a little while here foraging through splooge and sampling the local flavour, But I knew why I was here, and it wasn't to get lost in gorgeous scenery. It was to find Lich Dragon Fortisax, and that's when I stumbled upon it. Tangled within the tainted roots of the oak tree and looming over a revolting, disease-ridden swamp, the deformed, mutated body of GODWYN the Golden. One of the three sons of Marika and Godfrey, GODWYN was the golden child of the family, his illustrious golden hair flowing, a demigod as noble and powerful as they come. He resolved horrific wars, even befriending the fearsome dragon warrior Fortisax to do so. He was admired as a golden champion by all, until his very own stepsister Rani, with the piece of death she stole from Malekith, orchestrated his killing, her assassins carving the curse mark of death into GODWYN's flesh, but only half of it, meaning he couldn't die a true death, the other half etched into Rani herself. Both demigods dying simultaneously, but in opposite ways. Rani died in body but not spirit, hence her ghostly form, while GODWYN, well, his soul died, but his body lived on. Buried at the bottom of the oak tree's roots, his body was unable to die, and so it remained entangled down here, suspended in a state of half-death, contaminated, undergoing a bizarre transformation into this. Warped and perverted, an uncanny horrific form, his head and facial features contorted and rearranged, skin coarsened and scaled, hands webbed and taloned, death root sprouting out of him, strange fishtail swallowing his lower half, his once brilliant golden hair hanging like lifeless limp seaweed. GODWYN adopting a grotesque second life, now known as the Prince of Death, and his influence can be seen all over the lands between, and it blew my mind when I learned about it, and it's the exact sort of disconcerting, hiding in plain sight horror Easter egg I love. GODWYN, the Prince of Death, now this vile beating heart for death to spread across the lands between, its influence seeping through the roots of the oak tree, sprouting death root and giving rise to those who live in death. All the beings around the game that are physically dead yet still somehow function as if they were truly alive. And where you can find these beings, you can also find him, lurking, his eyes, his most recognizable feature, just watching in areas all over the game. Near the undead Tibia Mariners, he's watching. In crumbling Far Missoula even, with the skeletal beastmen, his eyes are manifesting. Crabs feeding around Lanedale have GODWYN's face emerging on their shells. The bulbous false eyes of the basilisks who spread Deathblight bear his resemblance. It's just crazy to see how GODWYN has eyes everywhere. All across the game you can find him in his twisted, deathly form. In places you've been many a time before, completely unaware. Seeing his eyes and face in the most far-flung places blew my mind. I love the inclusion of the Prince of Death into Elden Ring's world. I think it's a genuinely really interesting piece of environmental storytelling. Anyway, Lich Dragon Fortisax, GODWYN's old dragon buddy. How exactly do we fight him? Well, there's some NPC questline stuff with this lady called Fia, blah blah blah, curse mark of death, and then Fia granted me access to GODWYN's insides. Let me rephrase. I'm not exactly sure how, but Fortisax, being GODWYN's OG BFF, entered GODWYN to try and fight off the corruption from within him, and despite fighting long and hard against the death within his companion, it was hopeless. Fortisax himself only became corrupted by death in the process, GODWYN's body now his morbid prison. And at the end of Fia's questline, we can enter the dying dream of GODWYN, where we at last face Lich Dragon Fortisax. Here he is, the noble draconic companion of the golden demigod, failing even despite his unyielding resolve, his scales corroded and stained, deathroot thorns sprouting from his neck. In a way, I'm glad I'm here to kill him. Hopefully I can rid him of his futile struggle. The sky in GODWYN's dream is also just pure Lovecraftian art, melting into this sickening nightmarish tapestry of swirling, nauseating flesh. Although I have to admit, the actual fight was kind of forgettable. Fortisax's design is menacing and grim, the environment and the lore surrounding it is almost unparalleled in its dark, distorted beauty, but the actual fight, I mean, I didn't even remember what Fortisax did in this fight until I replayed him in New Game Plus 3 for this video. In fairness, I was likely over leveled, but still, he's just like every other dragon for me. I was just hacking at his legs, battling with the camera, and then he died in like 50 seconds. He has some of the most hardcore killer moves in the entire game visually, this huge cascading spinning lightning shard attack for example. So freaking cool. But I don't think I've ever been hit by it. When you're up close, Fortisax will try rattling off some closer range lightning infused claw swipes and slams, but by the time he gets them going, I'm already at his hind legs safe and sound swinging away. This is just the big enemy problem in Elden Ring. If you're big enough, it's an area control game and a grappling match with the camera as much as it is an actual boss fight. Fortisax's main threatening attack for me was his Death Lightning Storm, but when your only threatening attack is one that cakes the arena in AoE clouds that build up a literal insta-death status effect, well, that's not great, is it? His iconic twin lightning spears again, they look cool, so cool. So easy to dodge though, just outspace him, roll, approach, press button, win. It is a decent fight, but for me it's a diluted, awfully forgettable decent. A shell of what a boss like this could have been gameplay wise. Perhaps dragon fights just aren't for me though. I know some people love the Fortisax fight and even more people rank Placidusax as their favourite. Anyways, the spectacle is unwaveringly top notch as always. I don't know how it could have been contextualized, but I just really wish we got to fight GODWYN himself in some way. Even fighting his creepy mangled corpse would have been in my top 3 bosses, almost definitely. Speaking of top 3 bosses, only 2 targets remain now, Millennia and Mohg, both of them accessed from the same area. After running a quick errand in Liurnia and returning to the Grand Lift of Rold, I now had a second option to hoist my secret medallion, where the elevator activated once more for the final time to lift me up to a weird little secret passageway chamber place, which brought me out to the consecrated snowfield. What if Mountaintops of the Giants, the sequel? A flatter, less mountainous, blizzard-ridden, snow-swept wasteland full of nothing. Or at least at first glance, merely a bloated intermission between more interesting areas. But the snowfield does contain some actual things. A small collection of actually really unique and enjoyable mini-dungeons. Roaming bands of enemies and mini-bosses to be fought under towering glacial trees. Questlines and magma worms to be conquered under frozen waterfalls. A fight against a second, much harder Estelle, and the gorgeous town of Ordina, which we will discuss come Millennia. The area has just enough stuff to not be totally barren and time wasting, but like practically every player ever, I couldn't have spent much more than an hour or 2 here. It is still the intermission between 2 more important areas, and resting out on one of the snowfield's westernmost protrusions is a portal to one of those areas. Accompanying the portal, a lone Albinauric, staring out into the bleak white infinity, contemplating ideas beyond mortal mind.
From this distant vantage point, the Earth might not seem of any particular interest.
It's a tradition of mine to not kill him as I make my way through here. There is also some masterful foreshadowing at play, as the portal here is splattered with red paint. I'd like you to keep this in mind as it vaguely hints at the theme of the next area. Ah, wonderful. Very scenic. Oh, bloody hell. Literally, that's what this place is. Bloody hell. This is GODWYN Palace. The kingdom of Mohg, Lord of Blood, and all his abominable hell creatures. An island underground off the eastern coast of the Shifra River, the grave of an ancient civilization, the same one I've been finding scattered about everywhere down here, and it is in these ruins that Mohg has chosen to establish his oncoming dynasty. Well, I hate to crash the party, but that probably isn't happening now I'm here. This is an area swimming in blood, drowning in it, lakes of blood, swamps of blood, blood-soaked enemies, mutant blood creatures, blood-stained cliffs, blood bloody everywhere. blood, this is crazy. And awaiting you here, a hack and slash gauntlet of blood-drenched nightmare fuel. Hordes of Albinorics swarming over you, horrific mutant crows and ravenous strays tearing you apart. Putrid zombies, formless abominations, and sanguine nobles soaking you in blood as you make your ascent through the broken pieces of this ancient society and its now lightless satanic chambers. As well as this merchant who's just chilling here in the depths of hell, vibing out, playing some tunes. He has 5 stone sword keys. Mate, where have you been this whole time?
Terribly sorry. Are you here as a customer? You here as a customer? You here as a customer?
And as I was doing all this, I could hear from all the way up at the top of the palace, Moog blasting the 2010 hit EDM track Allure on Dance from his Bluetooth speakers and partying the night away with his fellow ravers. Now I really wanted to get up there, and so I did. I reached the grand beckoning doorway to the GODWYN Dynasty Mausoleum, the arena of and our meeting place with the one and only Moog, Lord of Blood Maxing. Yep, that's Moog, the second of the Forsaken Omen bros who were banished down to the Shunning Grounds. While Morgott went on to assume a noble position guarding Leyndell and rejecting his cursed Omen blood, Moog instead embraced it, making contact with an outer god, the Formless Mother, a deity who craves wounds and suffering and pain, granting him the twisted powers of Bloodflame. Moog taking on the moniker of the Lord of Blood and forming a glorified religious cult down here, one that worships blood and pain, hoping to turn it into a full-on dynasty. So here he is now, in all his accursed demonic glory, draped in kingly decadent robes, colossal trident in hand, physicality brooding and monstrous, his face calcified behind so thick and blackened layers of horns and growths he is almost beyond Omen, his face literally looking like the logo of a death metal band. But it isn't until phase 2 that his design really gets crazy. As for getting there, well, it's easy, we've already done it. His phase 1 moveset is the same as in the sewers, which is great because I love this moveset. It always feels super fluid and reminds me of Godfrey's phase 1. 5-piece combos with heavy trident swings to weave in and out of, thrusts and overhead smashes coming out of blood flame explosions. It's some really addictive gameplay. There is one major addition to the phase though, Moog's Countdown, where at certain increments of health Moog thrusts his spear into the air, shouting from 3 to 2 to 1, where at half health Moog performs the Blood Boon ritual, violently puncturing space-time and gouging out blood from his outer god, ripping away and siphoning your health bar. Great feathered Luciferian wings erupting from his back, his trident now enchanted with max level blood flame. Moog literally just looking like Satan now, like actual Satan. This second phase is brutal. You're afforded no space or time to breathe whatsoever. Every single move Moog throws at you now spewing gallons of flaming blood along with it. Moog soaring through the air, constantly recentering your focus and forcing you to keep hyper aware of where you can and can't step. Moog now the architect of the arena, painting the ground with agonizing chip damage, forcing you to calculate every step, forcing you to maneuver with purpose and intent, all the while evading his onslaught of supercharged HP erasing dive bombs and skewering trident attacks. There isn't the briefest moment to disengage with this fight now. I was constantly plugged into the action, experiencing this intimate moment with Moog in real time. It was incredibly touching. At first, I thought this second phase was a ridiculous spam fest shitstorm with way too much going on, but each time I play him, I end up loving it more and more. I honestly think Moog is one of Elden Ring's best bosses. Once you get into flow state with his phase 2, he becomes incredibly fun. Although I've killed him before he could even activate his phase 2 on numerous occasions, leaving me in this deserted arena, feeling blue-balled, realizing I'm gonna need to replay all the way up to GODWYN Palace again just to refight him. I also see this egg thing at the back of Moog's arena. Some sort of Scotch egg? No, it can't be. There is a hand coming out of it. Someone is in there. Very strange. Seems a bit weird. I was beginning to suspect this was some sort of My Little Pony jar type of situation, if you know what I mean, and I got a bit grossed out, so I left. It couldn't have been anything that important anyway. And with Mohg defeated, only one last boss stood in my way. And what is a mere one boss in the path of the Elden Lord? I had ravaged Limgrave and conquered Stormvale. I had overcome the terrors of Caelid and felled the mighty Radahn. I had foraged through the ghostly mists of Liurnia and its academy, charted the Altus Plateau and its wilds, scaled Mount Gelmir and crushed the Lord of Blasphemy in his monstrous manner. I'd stormed Leyndell and scoured its sinister underbelly. I'd captured the Flame of Ruin from its icy summit and held destined death in my palms. I'd bested the mightiest of warriors and the fiercest of dragons. I'd even slain a god. And now, there was merely one final area awaiting me. Just one last legendary legacy dungeon, Elden Ring's true endgame. Ordina, Liturgical Town. Yes, at the north of the consecrated snowfield, Elden Ring has its very own Willikin village, a quaint little ghost town crumbling into sugary sweet snow. It has a cool and incredibly fun Mario Party minigame to progress to the next area. You need to light up 4 candles hiding around the town. What's that? Sounds boring. Well, don't worry. Invisible black knife assassins and military snipers will cheer you on as you go along, lighting all the candles, granting you access to another portal, where I was finally taken to my true endgame. The final, masterfully complex and stunning area in Elden Ring, Miquella's Halig Tree. Miquella's Halig Tree is one great dark twisted fairy tale, a haunting failed attempt at synthesizing a second Erd Tree. An enchanting sylvan town built into its upper canopies, strung together across boughs and branches, the entire structure overlooking vast oceans and lands we will never know. The many misshapen limbs of this godforsaken tree winding and looping into the sky, blighted with the slow on-creep of scarlet rot, a disease we will now slowly trace back to its wretched origin. This area is at least in my top 3 favorites in the entire game, undoubtedly. It truly is my beautiful dark twisted tree. Beginning as a precarious tightrope walk down the Halig Tree's canopy, snaking down narrow branches past ants and mushrooms and rot pustules and bubbles of highly corrosive washing up liquid. After getting past these bubbles, you will encounter more bubbles and quite a few more bubbles being spewed by these stupid rotund creatures who like to stream snipe me from their camping spots. Fuck you, Oracle Envoys, cheap bubble spammers. Time to exterminate the lot of you out of sheer blinding rage. Oh, actually, this one can stay. You then end up in this wonderfully architected mystical village hanging from the side of the tree, a sort of promised land and haven for creatures rejected by society. Its residents a slew of meat-cleaving misbegottens and their warriors, ghostly summoning snails, PvZ cabbage poults and hordes of putrid rot zombies. There's just something about clearing out dozens of interconnected sanctuaries and gazebos and bridges and launching enemies off of balconies I can't get enough of. Layers stacking on top of each other, ladders and rooftops and elevators connecting them, offering numerous ways to tackle each enemy cluster. Branches veering all over the place, offering risky but rewarding shortcuts to get around and backstab enemies. These 2 battle mages patrolling these bridges were particularly threatening. And then I wandered into a pretty picturesque promenade and was all of a sudden in the midst of a duel with Loretta, Knight of the Halig Tree. The corporeal form of the same Loretta I fought all the way back in Caria Manor, and a fight I still really enjoy. Her glintstone homing thistles and great bow ballista shots are always satisfying to dodge, with close ranges feeling really dynamic. Some of her new moves in this encounter can feel a tad overtuned damage-wise though, but I haven't been caught by them enough times to get tilted. For example, the great bow multi-shot of death in the second half can nuke your health bar into oblivion if you slightly mistime it, and her more elaborate neon blue swishes and slashes are devastating, but again, all very satisfying to dodge in my opinion, and you get adequate time to toss your tool into the exchange for some damage of your own. The arena is also too pretty to not mention again, definitely adds a lot to the experience. It's usually a fight I can crank out in about 2 or 3 attempts, and it marks the end of the fairy tale treehouse part of the Halig Tree, and precedes the inner rotting royal nexus we are about to dive into. But before that, randomly just the most dwarfing, unexpectedly stunning view in the game, where halfway down this tower, you're exposed to this. I stop in my tracks whenever I pass this viewpoint. The game has masses of breathtaking shots that are all far better and more memorable than this one, but I don't know why every single time without fail, This exact, tiny, meaningless transition space. It gets me. I was very near the end of Elden Ring at this point. This is where that realization actually hit me. I knew once I'd completed the game I could replay it again and again and again as much as I wanted, but after I'd finished the Halig tree, I'd never be able to experience Elden Ring for the first time ever again. I am not really a big gamer. Outside of collecting footage for this channel, the only game I even really played last year was goddamn Overwatch. My trauma bond to that landfill, an affliction that's haunted me for almost a decade now. When I was little, I'd work my way through the catalogues of Nintendo every day after school. In early adolescence, I remember really no-lifing a handful of PvP games during lockdown, like, well, Overwatch, Smash Bros, Garden Warfare, and so on. But now, at my grizzled, jaded, old tarnished age of 17, I just don't game. I genuinely hadn't bought, started, and committed to a new game since like 2020, no joke. I don't keep up with gaming, I don't play games, I'd feel like an imposter to call myself a gamer. I just don't really exist within that sphere anymore. And then I bought Elden Ring. I don't remember why. I don't remember any lengthy deliberation process behind it. I just remember thinking, this will probably be a waste of time and money, but I'm bored. It's on discount, you know. Why not? As you can tell by this video's existence, Elden Ring then completely absorbed me into its world. And not to get like cringily sentimental or melodramatic or anything, but I really didn't expect to fall in love with a game ever again. I thought that feeling of a childlike wonder and fascination with a fantasy world and an adventure to be taken on in a game was, well, childlike. I thought that joy died along with childhood, but Elden Ring brought that wonder back to life for me. I don't know how they did it, and the game has its flaws in abundance, but Elden Ring truly is something special. Anyway, it was with that emotional Oscar-winning prepare to cry moment that I really went into this final area excited. Although, as we shall soon find out, I likely should have gone into this final area not excited, but grateful. For these were my last moments of sanity. And so I entered the second half of this area, Elfale, the brace of the Halig tree. A maze-like fortress harboring legions of the toughest enemies in the game, and as its name states, a Herculean feat of engineering, an entire city built around the Halig tree to support it. As this dying, rotting tree slowly fails to become an Erd-tree, Elfale props it up in desperate hope of further growth. It's sad, honestly, but why isn't this poor tree growing? Well, it's Miquella's Halig tree. And that person inside that egg in Mohg's arena is Miquella. So, remember how Marika and Radagon were both somehow the same person? Well, they also had children. Yep, self-incest. Marika had 2 kids with herself, Malenia and Miquella. But since they were born of a single parent, they each inherited a terrible curse. Malenia with terminal scarlet rot, and Miquella with eternal childhood. And seeing no cure for his sister's rot, Miquella grew disillusioned with the Golden Order, where he then found the infant Halig tree, diligently nourishing it with his own Empyrean blood, even weaving together a cocoon and embedding himself within it to nurture it directly. However, it would fail to grow into an Erd tree, because before he could finish it, Miquella was abducted by Mohg. Apparently this is a DLC thing I am currently too base game to understand, so I'll withhold the Mohg Lester jokes for now. Mohg then keeping Miquella in his cocoon underground, zealously trying to raise him to godhood so he could reign as his consort, the Lord of Blood. And after her battle with Radahn, Malenia awaited her brother's return at the base of the tree, gradually infecting it with her scarlet rot. She is still waiting down there for Miquella in the now dying core of this tragic, stunted Halig tree. But to get there, I must first infiltrate Elfale, the most hostile garden center to ever exist. This place is punishing, really punishing, and it's beautiful, really beautiful. It takes the cake for me as my favorite legacy dungeon aesthetically by far. Its exterior, this indomitable fortress, a bastion of stone now flowering and embraced by the Haligtree's floral symphony. Its walkways patrolled by clean rot knights and swarms of soldiers armed to the teeth with ballistas and archers bolstered with putrid avatars. And its interior, the hollowed out chasm of the Haligtree, a paradox of life and decay. Chambers and passageways succumbing to the nightmarish taint of rot, yet still blossoming as delicate sanctuaries of snowy white petals and graceful fluttering wings. This place will chew you up and spit you out over and over. It houses some torturous enemy encounters, but personally the brutal difficulty was never unfair feeling. If anything, I got nostalgia for how Stormveil felt all those many moons ago, where every corner turn had to be calculated and every single enemy taken seriously. Relentlessly smashing down hordes of the Haligtree's forces, looking down from these roots and seeing the oncoming boss arena staring back up at me from the gutted trunk of the Haligtree, discovering more and more secret compartments and rooms, culling swarms of enemies under cascading leaves, and dying over and over and over again while getting it all done. I really like Elfale. But all of this, in all its complexity and luster, in fact, the entire game up to this point, it's all been but a small appetizer for the main course. You descend into a candle-lit chamber, deep into the core of the Haligtree, swallowed by its roots. A bloom of scarlet rot sits in a room beside you, and you know that boss door in front of you, it's different to all the ones you've met before. You know something beyond game mechanics, beyond boss fighting is waiting for you. You can just sense it, but like a fool, you still enter, as if you ever stood a chance. And you meet, for the first time, Malenia, Blade of Miquella. Enjoy your sanity while it lasts. In this world, nothing is certain but death, taxes, and getting annihilated by waterfowl dance. Malenia is the hardest boss fight in Elden Ring. She is to almost everyone who plays her, and she definitely is to me. This is the single cruelest encounter in the entire game. Her initial moveset is sharp yet simple, a slew of katana slashes and swipes, darting towards you, lunging and dashing into stabs and swings and eviscerating combos, spinning kicks and brutal impaling cutscene grabs injected between. Just non-stop, fast-paced, close range sword slicing, dodging into her attacks and weaving and dancing around her as death whispers in your ear is beyond addicting. Get caught by any one of these moves and your run can be snatched from you in an instant, but it's all perfectly fair, it's all dodgeable, the timing is super tight, but nailing each of these moves in quick succession is a rhythmic euphoria unmatched by almost any other boss. If this was the Malenia experience, I'd have made it out of this place unbroken, but of course, it isn't. That's Malenia's moveset, and then there is Waterfowl Dance. The most wrath-inspiring, controller-dismantling, sanity-shattering, inexorable, undodgeable death trap of a move. Malenia jumps into the air, pauses to let you pray, and then unleashes onto you 3 bursts of AoE torture. 1, 2, 3... and you are dead. It's cruel, it's unfair, it's undodgeable without literally pixel perfect movement. It isn't even about whether you'll dodge this move, but if you'll survive it. This is the iron wall of pain that very few humans alive can reliably dodge at close range. Malenia in general is a hard boss, but Waterfowl Dance is what makes her the hardest. And she does all this with another harrowingly malicious mechanic: lifesteal. Anytime Malenia hits you, even if you blocked the attack, she regenerates health. Malenia regenerates health on each and every hit. This is Malenia, a desperate primal struggle for survival, and then you claw your way to phase 2. Suffering her first true defeat, Malenia falls to the ground, yet just as all seems quiet.
Wait.
Succumbing to the scarlet rot, Malenia blossoms once more, ascending to a higher form. She becomes Malenia, Goddess of Rot. her silky smooth red L'Oreal hair now tangled up with thousands of butterflies and 2 horrifyingly beautiful wings, her marred infected body revealed, retaining almost all of her prior moveset now drenched in scarlet rot, sweeping down with slashes and stabs, phantom swordsman's joust and fence you, Millennia drowning the arena in rot with the same bloom that zombified Radahn. Honestly, even just trying to remember this phase feels like a fever dream. Across hours and hours of attempting Millennia, I only actually reached her second phase like 10% of the time, if that. Each of those times it being this adrenalized blur with my heart pounding and all consciousness completely absorbed. My Millennia experience was more about struggling desperately for any morsels of hope that I could even see phase 2. Actually beat phase 2. Yeah, I wish. It didn't matter how many times I tried, how many times I barely escaped waterfowl, how many times I broke her stance, got in good punishes, or genuinely started playing well. I just couldn't get her. Hours passed, multiple hours. It was now far past midnight and I was still fighting Millennia. Death after death after death, challenge and determination had become delirium. Death after death after death. I was going insane. And so my frail, bruised, demoralized soul buckled under the weight of the torture, and I committed a real cardinal sin. I summoned my +10 Mimic Tier and absolutely annihilated Millennia with ease, backed her into a corner and stun-locked her into oblivion. Her second phase became a joke, and so in her empty arena I just sat there. A slight feeling of relief did hit me, but it dissipated quickly, and I was just left there with a hollow, empty victory. I felt like I'd cheated. I denied myself the supreme achievement of having actually truly beaten this game, and I couldn't live with myself. I knew what I should have done, I knew what I had to do, and so I did it. New game plus every boss again, except this time no summons, no spamming OP weapon arts, no cowardice, no shortcuts, no escape, just raw, real victory. It was time to truly beat Elden Ring. First up, Margit, and done. Oh, yeah, I didn't realize how overwhelming my firepower was coming back to the early game. Even with everything being scaled up for New Game Plus, the difficulty of early game bosses was just completely incomparable to how it was before. I was hoping to have some marvelous, wow, look how far I've come type of moment, skillfully rolling between Margit's previously unbeatable moves, but nope, he died in like 20 seconds. And then, seeing the manifestation of Godwyn in the Blight of Death across Stormveil, now I actually understood it was really cool. And then Godric was the next boss on the chopping block, and as I expected, beyond easy. Dead in under a minute. This guy really gets no time to shine. Then I got to Liurnia and Raya Lucaria. The Red Wolf of Radagon still managed to get his paws on me a little bit, and Renala was a bit more of a faff this time, but still no death so far. Then came Radahn. I was actually super hyped to finally take Radahn on one-on-one. He is easily one of my favorite fights, but it was just a tad too easy. I wasn't scared to death of approaching him now, and my nuclear firepower meant once I had approached him, well, I kill him. The fight was still super fun, just a bit quick. And then was the Altus Plateau. I made a beeline to Lanedale, rampaged through it, and then came Morgott. And I enjoyed this guy way more summonless. Engaging with his rapid combos properly was a blast. He definitely did challenge me quite a lot, but having so many Crimson Flasks meant I just about got through it without dying. Which brought me to the mountaintops. I just powered straight through the mountaintops to get done with the Fire Giant, and yeah, I die a little bit here. His first phase was completely doable, but that second phase just has way too many ways to catch you in a moment's notice if you mismanage your spacing, which I did. A couple times actually. But he was nothing too insane, so I scuttled on up to the forge to claim the Flame of Ruin.
Wait, don't you feel like you're forgetting something?
No fucking way.
Under Lanedale, under the subterranean shunning grounds, don't you sense it? Something is beckoning out to you from down there, just through that secret passageway in Moog's arena. Don't you remember? The frenzied flame is beckoning out to you.
So, before the Flame of Ruin, I went back down to the shunning grounds, cleared out the shunning grounds, beat Minimoog, and then, behind his arena and through this secret passageway was, well, an infuriating platforming challenge with a death toll higher than every boss up to this point. Not fun with controller drift, trust me. But then after that was the Frenzied Flame Prescription, the deepest, darkest, forsaken chamber of the Shunning Grounds, and at the end of it, a bizarre, organic-looking burned scar sealing the wall. I came here in playthrough 1 and had no idea what to do, and so just left thinking it was some cryptic dead end I'd return to. But as it turns out, if you simply take off all your clothes and stand in front of the seal, it will open, and behind it is the Three Fingers, the envoy of an outer god. Smouldering and burning, it's been locked away down here in darkness for God knows how long, and now it can get its 3/5 of a hand on you. It wraps itself around you, searing your skin and branding you with the curse of the frenzied flame. You, a tarnish, now the harbinger of chaos, eyes glowing with sickly demonic fire, your body now disfigured and scorched. You are the vessel of the frenzied flame, the embodiment of absolute ruin. So now, post Elden Beast, we will meet with a much, much different fate. Anyway, Flame of Ruin. So yeah, Melina broke up with me because I am now frenzy maxing, so I burnt the Erdtree down myself and got to Fair Missoula, where the challenge ramped up quickly. The Godskin duo was a lot tougher summonless. Finally, I began to understand the near unanimous hatred of this boss fight, and then came Malekith. Fully tackling him in all his sporadic anime combo chaos was insane, and it quickly became one of my favourite fights. Truly learning each and every one of his moves and successfully consistently dodging them is a pure and utter thrill. The difficulty was nightmarish and the deaths were plentiful, but fairly defeating Malekith was my first dose of oh shit, I actually just did that, and it was a great feeling. And then came the Ashen Capital, where Sir Gideon Ofnir, well, fuck him. And then shortly after that, I was once again at the Elden Throne of the Burning Erdtree, where he awaited me for round 2, Lord Godfrey. And as I expected, Godfrey was a very tough nut to crack. His first phase was still riveting and infinitely replayable and never got old. It's so fun. I almost never died in it as well. Super consistently doable for me. But Phase 2 was a berserk nightmare. Without a summon to redirect his attention, the heat was constantly on me, and man was this heat hot. It's another one like Malekith where you can have a virtually flawless run be just ripped away from you after like one slightly mistimed dodge. But as they say, if you can't handle the heat, stay out of the kitchen. And guess what? I'm a chef who is hungry. The kitchen is the only place I want to be right now. So after a few more grueling hours, I finally defeated Godfrey and his Horaloo insanity, meaning all that stood between me and a second credit roll was the Radabeast Bonanza. And I was ready. Radagon was easy enough. I actually beat him first try coming back, but Elden Beast with no summon is an absolute chore. It definitely wasn't any more fun doing it solo. In fact, it was much less enjoyable. And getting sent back to do Radagon over and 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 over so I could actually clean up my Elden Beast performance was mind-numbing. This was the least fun I had on any boss in this game. But as I said, defeating the Elden Beast a second time didn't trigger the same Elden Lord ending cutscene. I instead had triggered the Lord of Frenzied Flame ending, where I left Marika in her broken state, my tarnished soy jack now consumed and entirely possessed by the unstoppable force of frenzy. The Erdtree too erupting into an infernal hellfire, and now as the Lord of Frenzy I distort the lands between into this Lovecraftian, incinerated nightmare. All of existence rapidly captured and tortured in total unending pain, Melina vowing to hunt you down to the ends of the earth. All life now burns, and nothing more can come from it. And then the cutscene is over and the Erdtree is still there. Now, there were a myriad of other bosses I ended up facing summonless after this. Rykard, Estelle, Placidusax, Moog, Fortisax. For the most part, the experience of beating them again without any crutches was far more enjoyable. But of course, there was just one boss in dire need of defeat. I had now put an entire lineage of demigods and legends to the sword single-handedly. I was at the absolute peak of my Elden prowess, and all of this momentum and newfound skill was about to come violently crashing rushing into Millennia's arena. So you see, standing before you now, Millennia, he who is no longer noob, a tarnished who no longer cowers and cheeses from behind his ghostly goon. You are now fighting frenzied Elden Lord extraordinaire, Lugalan Plus. And so the final battle began. Hours and hours went by, warring my way through innumerable attempts at Millennia's life. Sheer determination and willpower, the only fuel I had. Each run ended brutally, each drop of hope extinguished mercilessly. But health point by health point, roll by roll, swing by swing, I was managing to stare into the eyes of death unblinking. Just powering through machine-like repetition over and over and over again, until the moves and mechanics of Millennia's fight became more familiar to me than the interior of my own mind. I began responding to each of her subtleties and telegraphs and giveaways automatically. Consciousness surrendered, and I began to play through pure instinct and muscle memory. I reached a point beyond flow state. I wasn't playing as the Tarnished anymore. I was the Tarnished, and I knew Millennia inside out. My brain had now developed an entire new lobe dedicated to pressing my Xbox controller's B button to roll through attacks. And finally, after all the pain and bloodshed, after all the waterfowls and rot explosions and vicious katana slicing insanity I had spent hours upon hours upon hours mastering, No, not like this. Millennia killed me even more, over and over, more and more, again and again. You died, you died, you died. But I didn't care. My resolve was infinite, my drive boundless. And so, after a lifetime of torment, I defeated Millennia all by myself.
The mark of a true lord.
What the fuck? I fucking love this game.